My entitled ex-boyfriend literally makes my life miserable, as he spreads false rumors about me just to try and make me look bad after we broke up. So I decided to get some revenge by doing the exact same thing, only this time I told the truth, exposing him for the narcissist piece of garbage that he is, resulting in his entire friend group turning their back on him. And I've honestly never felt more satisfied because this guy absolutely deserved it. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so after me and my ex broke up, he made my life miserable. I'm talking about contacting my friends and my sister just to talk garbage about me after I blocked him, as well as posting on Reddit about his version of the story, and then sending me the links to them amongst other things. It was overall a very messy situation. He had all the traits of a classic narcissist pretending to be this awesome person. He's very woke, he's feminist, he's supportive of all his friends, etc. But in reality, he was a giant piece of crap and hated on everyone, which he used to proudly tell me. Then the opportunity presented itself. His roommate, who I was good friends with at the time, invited me for a birthday celebration. I decided to go primarily to see his cat, who I really loved. The thing about my ex is that he had a very close-knit group of friends who had known each other for more than like 10 years, and all of them were in each other's businesses pretty much all the time. This group also included a female friend of his who I was somewhat close with. Now keep in mind, all of them seem to think that he's some kind of gift to mankind, but it's here that I decided that ended today. So on the day of the party when my ex was getting absolutely plastered, I pulled aside the female friend, the roommate's girlfriend, and another girl in their group, and I laid out everything awful that he had done over the course of this relationship, including bringing another girl to his room at night, all the gaslighting behavior, his behavior after the breakup, etc. I also added his somewhat problematic views regarding feminism and how misogyny is sometimes okay, which really makes me question why I was even with him in the first place. Along with this, I mentioned he criticized all of their relationships, and especially not liking the roommate's girlfriend. I also threw in the occasional, "Oh, I've always supported you" as well, and then I left only after eating the cake, of course. Now, the fallout I got to know after a few months through another friend is that all of his friends confronted him, which then led to a huge fight, and he was, to put it lightly, let go from the group, no longer invited to anything even though he lives in the same house. And now, a few days back, I found out that he's moving away from the city, which honestly was a really cool thing to hear and quite satisfying because this guy made my life incredibly miserable. Okay, yeah, this was some fantastic revenge. Good for you. It really does suck when you have someone in your life who used to be in your life like full time, walk around and just straight up spread lies about you. And it's stuff like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be the victim here. They were really the problem one. I was just the innocent one." Or just straight up being this awful person and being like, "Oh yeah, he really didn't like women or pretty much anybody." So good for you for exposing this guy. He absolutely deserved to have all of his sins brought before the universe, because based on what you described, he does not sound like a good person and he definitely deserved this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled bride tried to ruin my career, all because I wouldn't hand over all the raw footage that I shot at her wedding, as she literally started spreading rumors and tried to get me blacklisted from my community, putting me in a situation I've never been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to start things out, I work as a videographer. This has been my profession for years, and things usually go smooth because I keep everything in writing and I'm pretty strict about contracts. This particular client booked my basic package for her wedding about 6 months ago, and that's 6 hours of filming, highlight reel, and a short film and nothing more. Now, the wedding itself was stressful enough because she literally kept bossing me around like I was her personal assistant instead of the videographer. But still, I pushed through and I delivered what she paid for on time. But the second she got the final edits, she demanded all the raw footage. I explained again that raw footage isn't included. It's not in the package, neither was it in the contract. And honestly, no professional hands over unedited files unless the client pays extra. They are huge files. There's hours of shaky duplicate shots, and once you hand them over, people use them and then blame you when it looks bad. She then became very aggressive and told me I stole her memories, accused me of trying to ruin her wedding, and said that she was going to trash my name online if I didn't hand them all over. This was also after she had even cried on the phone and tried to guilt trip me, saying that she couldn't relive her big day without every single second that I filmed. It then got very ugly and she shouted, and I eventually just hung up. Then she started posting online that I ruined her wedding video, tagging vendors and trying to blacklist me. Thankfully, most people in the industry literally know exactly how these situations go, and my contract protects me entirely. But the emotional toll of having someone smear you after you worked your butt off really stings. She paid for a basic package, got exactly what she signed up for, and still acted like I owed her unlimited free work, which honestly was completely unfair. Oh man, I've dealt with this in my own ways, but I can't imagine being contracted for someone's wedding and then they act like this. Seriously, like what's going on right now? You didn't pay for that. You can't just get unedited footage and be like, oh yeah, I need it. My wedding's not the same if I don't have a full documentation of every single minute of it. Because it's like, dude, what are we talking about here? This is such a weird request. Because this lady was out of line and her attitude was just completely ridiculous. An idiotic customer fails to mention that he is allergic to nuts, as we literally served him a drink that had that in there, causing me and my other coworker to go into an absolute frenzy, as we were seriously concerned that we had just ended this guy's life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened a couple of weeks ago, but my coworker brought it up while we were discussing some of the weirder customers we've served recently, and I simply knew that I just needed to post it here on the internet. For a bit of background information, I work at a speakeasy-style nightclub in a small tourist town. We're one of 8 bars within the same few square miles, and each spot is different than the next. Most of them are your traditional dive bars, and very few of them actually make craft cocktails, so people who aren't used to the sheer amount of stuff we offer versus only being able to order just liquor and beer tend to get overwhelmed with all of the options and will usually just order off of our menu. We have a written cocktail menu that has the ingredients under each item, and all the drinks that have possible allergens or raw eggs are starred and have a disclaimer at the bottom, and trust me, this will be very important later on. Now, we typically have zero issues when it comes to customers ordering directly from the menu since it is so descriptive, and we usually ask a bunch of follow-up questions to make sure the drink is made exactly how they want. Sometimes people will ask us to change up a few things, and we're always more than willing to be accommodating. Now, it was a busy weekend that night, and my coworker and I were running around like rats trying to take care of everyone lining up around the bar top. One large group hung around for a few hours, continuously ordering, generally just being chill. A man who was part of this group had only been drinking old fashions and decided that he wanted to try something new. So he scoured the menu and ordered an amaretto sour. Keep in mind, this cocktail has a star next to it, so it is listed as having potential allergens and a raw egg. We then asked him if it all looked good to him, and he just requested that we use sweet and sour instead of egg white, and honestly that was no problem. My coworker whips up his sour, he takes a few big swigs and then compliments the drink before walking back to his group playing pool. Well, about 20 minutes go by, and more people from that same group come up to order another round before starting a new game, when the man from before comes up to me with his empty glass in hand. I walk up to him and I ask if he'd like anything else, and he shakes his head before asking me if the amaretto sour contained any nuts. Now, I genuinely thought he was joking with me for a second, so it's here that I let out a quick laugh, but he doubled down. He said to me, "No, I'm being serious. I need to know because I have a nut allergy and my throat is starting to itch." When he said this, I immediately stopped laughing. My coworker and I shared a terrified look before we had to tell him that yes, his drink did contain nuts, because amaretto is a liquor literally made with nuts. We obviously started to panic and asked if he had noticed the star next to it on the menu, with the disclaimer in bold letters that said contains allergens or raw egg. He apparently didn't think that would apply to him in a cocktail bar, and he didn't think to ask about it ahead of time. Now, we were obviously freaked out, and we asked if he needed us to call the paramedics or something like that, but instead he just waved us off, told us that he was probably gonna be fine, and handed us his card to close his tab. He said that it was a huge bummer that amaretto was made of nuts, because apparently that would have been his new favorite drink. We're honestly still baffled he didn't think to let us know that he had a nut allergy, since, you know, those can be usually dangerously severe. I mean, I have a friend that is so allergic to nuts that even just a small bit of a peanut could send her into anaphylaxis, so she'll do everything in her power to avoid unknowingly consuming it. But I guess in this case, his allergy just wasn't that severe. But even still, we really thought this guy was about to have a full-blown allergic reaction, considering he drank a full glass of amaretto. But thankfully, things worked out, because this really could have been a terrible situation. Oh my gosh, dude, this is so scary. Like, if you've ever met someone who has a peanut allergy or something close to that, then you know that this is one of those things where it only gets worse with time. Like, in most cases, the more you're exposed to it, the more severe it can get. So the fact that this guy had this drink and still was like, "Oh yeah, my throat's getting itchy. There's no nuts in this or anything, is there?" Like, that's crazy, dude. Don't you think you would have asked that? Like, come on, man. So overall, I think you guys got incredibly lucky, because this very easily could have been an absolute nightmare to deal with. Today, I yelled at a customer because they literally went the wrong way in traffic. Because despite the fact that our retail store literally has signs dictating where the entrance and exit is, this idiot decided to go through the entrance to try and leave our facility, putting me in a situation where I had to raise my voice to make them stop. And now I'm worried this might get back to my manager because I'm scared I'm gonna get in trouble. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm feeling both a bit guilty and worried about what happened at work today. For reference, I work outside at a retail store collecting shopping carts to bring to the front. We have an above ground covered parking where you drive in and there are spots on the left and right going back a bit, and then you can turn left twice to get to more parking and be going towards the exit of the covered parking. Now, a common issue that we have is that people are pulling out of their spots and trying to come back towards the entrance, and they leave through there despite facing oncoming cars. Now, the entrance has a sign that says entrance and the exit says exit. There are arrows on the ground directing people in and towards the exit only, as well as two bold no exit signs hanging up, which are visible to those walking to the store or cars facing the wrong way. Well, today, some woman was driving towards the entrance to leave through an entire line of cars coming in while already being over halfway to the back and closer to the exit side. Well, when I saw this, I yelled at her and I forced her to turn around. And mind you, I have forced everyone I managed to catch to do the same thing, and in the process have also gotten angry at them as well. Now, I don't know why, but my anxiety is high with this one. In our area, we have some fires that are causing smoke to fill the air. The temperature is high and the humidity is insane. We also had a sick call and we were busier than normal since we were closing for the day. I was extremely overwhelmed with all the work that needed to be done, and having her doing something that I would hope someone with a license would know not to do just honestly put me over the edge. And yes, she should have not gone the wrong way, but the state I was in wasn't her fault, and I feel bad about it. It felt like I yelled at her for ages, but it was only for a few seconds. I yelled asking what she thought she was doing, and that I wasn't going to let her through here, and how I was not in the mood to deal with this nonsense today. I don't think I said anything nasty to her, but my tone was loud and not friendly. Our company really caters to our customers, so I'm worried that if she complains, I'm done for. It would be my first complaint, but I just don't think that matters. The main reason I hate people trying to leave through the entrance is mainly due to all the signs telling people that you can't come back this way, but also because other customers walk into the covered parking through the entrance and you can't see vehicles until you're inside. Like, no one expects a car to be coming in that direction, so I worry that someone's going to get hit when I see someone driving that way, especially when they're going fast. Anyways, I feel less anxiety having written all that out, but I don't think I'll be able to relax for a couple of days because this honestly really stressed me out. Oh man, to the original poster, dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. This is so obnoxious, especially when they're too dumb to read the signs. Like, dude, I would be going crazy if I saw people trying to go through the wrong exit. And I'm sorry, what am I saying? It's not even an exit. They're trying to go back through the entrance, you know, going into traffic. Like, how stupid can you get? Like, at that point, I don't blame you for yelling. They're not paying attention and they could get someone hurt, especially if they're on foot. So like, in my opinion, your anxiety and all the stress you're going through is completely justified. You have every reason to sit there and be like, wait a second, this is crazy. I do not like this. And you know what? That's one of those things where I hope my manager hears about this later on, because they're either going to be really happy for me and I'll be like, okay, I have a good manager, or they're going to be a Karen and actually try to yell at me for yelling at customers for going the wrong way. Like, I don't know about you, but that would be a perfect way to be like, oh, okay, my manager's awful and I don't want to work here anymore. And at the bare minimum, you can start looking for another job because clearly your manager sucks. So don't beat yourself up over this, dude. You did the right thing. Like, that really was the correct way to handle this, because the alternative of you saying nothing and then something awful happening, in my opinion, would make this entire situation way worse. My husband literally did not get me anything for my birthday, as he claimed he was under too much pressure, despite the fact that I literally gave him a list of what I was looking for. And now this has caused a massive blow up between the two of us, and at this point, I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, my husband and I have only been married since December, but we've been together for 3 years, and we've known each other for about 5. He's one of the nicest people I've ever known, and he's gone out of his way to help me out even before we were dating. He knows how important my birthday is to me, but he's always not cared about his. This year, because I know that it's difficult for him, I started reminding him months in advance to figure out a plan and a gift. It needs to be said that my net income is about 3 times as much as his, so I wasn't expecting like diamonds or anything like that, just like relatively cheaper stuff that I couldn't justify buying for myself. I also sent him links to things that I found cool but I couldn't justify buying, like some fake earrings or a Kill Bill t-shirt. Well, my birthday rolls around and he got nothing. He said he was trying very hard to find something that I will like and just couldn't figure anything out. And that in and of itself was one fight. The second was about how he went about getting the cake. I asked him to place the order in advance because I feel more comfortable planning ahead of time, but he insisted that he knew the bakery and he could easily get the cake an hour in advance. Well, the day before before my birthday, I asked him once again if he could just please place the order, and it was here that he snapped at me. Well, at that moment, I gave up. I told him to cancel everything, and I went out with strangers and celebrated with them. He called asking if he could join, but I just said no. Well, he apparently got an emergency therapy session, and the therapist told him that that was a jerk move. I know he didn't mean to hurt me, and he's been apologizing and offering to buy me whatever I want, but I'm not able to let my anger go. He knew this was important to me, and he went out of his way to ruin it for me, and I'm not able to get over it. So how do we move forward from this? What should I do? Okay, I gotta be completely honest. Anytime a post starts off by saying, "Oh, he's the nicest person I've ever known. He's always helped me out with so much. He's the best." Like, for me, that's a big red flag that, oh yeah, this guy's probably not all he's cracked up to be. Because then you listed off all the things that he should have been doing at the bare minimum. Like, think about it for a second. This guy could have easily just gone to that list and been like, "Oh, great, fantastic. Here's a list of things my wife wants. I'm just gonna get that." Like, there you go, problem solved. Maybe even get something that you think she would like that she's not expecting, just to try and like spice it up. Like, do you know how easy that would have been for me if I was in that guy's shoes? I would have been like, "Oh, thank you so much for giving me a list. I'm gonna get everything that you want, and then I'm gonna surprise you with something fun." Like, that would have been a dream, dude. Like, why are you like fumbling the ball right now? Also, the cake situation is so dumb. Like, dude, just order the cake ahead of time. Why be so obstinate about it and be like, "Oh no, I know this bakery. I can call them an hour in advance and they're gonna have it. Don't worry, I'm gonna wait till the last second." It's like, dude, is it really that hard to call and be like, "Okay, let me order this ahead of time"? It would take 5 minutes to do it, and it's not that big of a deal. So in my opinion, this guy's not nearly all he's cracked up to be. I think it's just completely annoying the way he's acting. And in my opinion, this entire situation is on him and not the original poster. Today, I messed up by trying to break my buddy out of jail. And for a second, it worked until we finally got busted, resulting in me nearly losing my entire career in the military. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this is a story of a jailbreak that actually worked for like 1 minute. It happened years ago, and I won't share certain specifics, and I will be using fake names, but seriously, this was the most epic screw-up I've ever been a part of. Now, at the time, I was in the military stationed stateside, and one night, a group of buddies and I discovered Jaeger bombs. Round after round, we kept them coming, and before we knew it, the night had completely flown by, and my friend Brian offered to drive my roommate and I back to our off-base apartment. Well, we didn't make it far. A car full of 3 21-year-olds leaving a bar at 2 o'clock in the morning near a military base? That immediately drew police attention. We got pulled over, and as soon as the officer reached Brian's window, it was clear that we were all drunk. In fact, all of us admitted it. Brian blew into the breathalyzer and failed instantly. He was then cuffed and placed in the back of the patrol car. Then the officer turned to my roommate and me, and he explained that if one of us blew under the limit, we could drive Brian Carr's home and save him the impound fees. Well, we both tried, and as you can imagine, both of us failed. Now here's where it gets really weird. The officer left us with Brian's car and the keys. Then he drove off with Brian to book him into the local jail. To this day, I have no idea why he left us like that. And about 20 minutes later, my roommate and I had what seemed like a brilliant idea. Now, as a quick note, this all happened years ago, back when DUI penalties were just starting to become as serious as they are today. We were young, reckless, and unbelievably stupid. I don't condone drinking and driving in any way, and I'm grateful that nobody was hurt. So anyways, both my roommate and I were military police officers. We felt guilty for letting Brian drive us, and now he was in trouble. So with absolutely zero judgment, we decided to drive Brian's car back to our apartment ourselves. It wasn't far, but that doesn't excuse the stupidity. And then somewhere between leaving the bar and arriving home, we came up with the ultimate plan. We were going to break Brian out of jail. And here's how the master plan went down. We returned Brian's car to our apartment, we brushed our teeth, put some gum in our mouth, and shaved, and we got into our military police uniforms. We even put on our guard belts to make it look like we were on duty. I then called my precinct's dispatch, and I asked them not to contact the jail Brian was at. And for a bit of background and reference here, every night the command checked local jails for military members. And luckily, I knew the dispatcher on duty, and he owed me a big favor. So he agreed to this without asking any questions. We then called the jail directly, pretending to be my command. I asked if any military members were in custody, and they confirmed that Brian was there. I then asked if we could take him into custody, and they said yes. So we then switched cars, leaving Brian's car at the apartment, and take one of our own. We give ourselves one last pep talk, and then we head out. We pulled into the jail parking lot at around 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was completely empty. We buzzed at the entrance, explained that we were there to take custody of Brian, and we were told okay. Well, 25 of the longest minutes of my life later, a loud buzzer finally sounded. The heavy metal doors slid open, and there stood 2 corrections officers and Brian in handcuffs. And the look on his face was priceless. Like his jaw dropped and he was pale as a ghost. I then told the officer that I'd put my own cuffs on him so they could take theirs back. I even gave him a pat down before swapping them out. And just like that, Brian was in my custody. We thanked the officers, walked him out, and headed across the lot toward our car with our hearts pounding. surrounding. And that's when my roommate whispered, "Don't get in the car. Do not get in that car." Well, I turned around to see the arresting officer standing behind us. He looked us dead in the eye and asked, "Wait, aren't you two the passengers from the vehicle I pulled over tonight?" And yeah, in that moment we got busted. Our luck had finally run out. The lot had been empty when we arrived, but while we were waiting, the arresting officer had pulled in and was sitting in his patrol car doing paperwork. He watched us walk Brian out of jail like it was nothing. Well, as you can probably guess what happened next, we all went to jail. By 8 o'clock in the morning, our command came to get us. Back at base, I was told to go home, pack my things, and be ready because this wasn't going to end well. The next day, I returned and I didn't leave base for 45 days until we deployed again. Now, when it comes to the fallout, I was punished to the fullest extent of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I disappointed a lot of people and I carried that shame. But at the same time, I was infamous. Word spread pretty fast. Everybody knew about the failed jailbreak, and for better or for worse, it made us celebrities. People said that we embodied loyalty, and you had to admire the audacity even if the execution was insane. Now, thankfully, this didn't end my career. I served out my enlistment honorably, and I've never screwed up like that ever again. Looking back now, it was crazy, it was reckless, and absolutely stupid. But it's also one of the wild stories that remind me of the bonds that we had as brothers in arms. We tried to break a friend out of jail, and for a brief, glorious moment, it kinda worked. Dude, this is a hilarious story, holy crap. First of all, you're great friends for trying this, but also, oh my gosh, what were you thinking, dude? Like, that could have gone so badly if it was today's day and age, and you can tell that this was something that happened a long time ago because, oh my gosh, I don't think anybody would have let that slide, like seriously. So good for you for the tenacity, but also I think you got off very lucky in this situation, because this could have been a lot worse if things were just a little bit different. My scumbag boyfriend had an affair with my therapist after she pressured him into doing it, and I simply don't know what to do now. I have been in therapy for about a year now because I was on the verge of a burnout and still had trauma to work through from my previous relationship, which has negatively impacted my current relationship with my boyfriend. While my current relationship has been an increasingly frequent topic in my therapy sessions, I was honestly there because of psychological pressure regarding my studies and my work. Lately, I've been feeling increasingly worse and haven't been able to handle the pressure around me as well, which has also put a strain on my relationship. Because I wasn't being completely honest with my therapist and her suggestions weren't really working, we agreed to include my boyfriend in some of the sessions. These were to be one-on-one sessions so that she could get his perspective and create a plan that would take his needs into consideration as well. My therapist has been very helpful in helping me better reflect on my emotions and better articulating my needs. The better I could deal with the pressure, the better things went between me and my boyfriend. After a while, I noticed that my therapist was acting increasingly strange, whereas before she was very neutral and asked more pointed questions that allowed to reflect on my own behavior in relation to my relationship and patterns of behavior. She increasingly began to badmouth my relationship and blame me for my relationship problems. I found this very strange, and I couldn't explain where the sudden change came from, but I didn't think too much of it. Maybe I was just on the fence about how badly I treat my boyfriend. Fast forward to now. Yesterday, I was at my boyfriend's house and we were having a nice day, and we decided to watch a movie together before bedtime. Out of nowhere, he suddenly had tears in his eyes, and then he confessed to me that he has been having an affair with her, my therapist. He cried the whole time and reassured to me that he regrets it and doesn't want to lose me. In his words, my therapist put so much pressure on him that he didn't know what to do and he couldn't say no. I guess it started when she invited him to be in the one-on-one sessions. This was months ago, and since then, they have been meeting secretly. After he confessed to me, I drove home and cried the entire car ride home. No matter how long I think about it, what he says just doesn't make sense. How could he do this to me? Ever since he told me about his cheating, he has been constantly trying to call and text me. I have 13 missed calls from him and a lot of messages assuring me that I am his world, and he didn't want any of this to happen, but she pushed him into doing it. He has also been to my parents' house, and my mother has told me how miserable he is, and that he mentions over and over again that my therapist pressured him into doing this. So now I don't know what to do. How do I handle this situation? Part of me doesn't want to believe any of this and wants to believe him, but the other part of me knows that what he did is unexcusable. What should I do? First and foremost, you need to report the therapist. That is so unethical, it's not even funny. Like, this person can possibly lose their license as a therapist because because of this. Like, it's that bad. This literally goes against everything that they learn with like ethics codes, as well as boundaries, as well as client benefit. Like, this is horrible. This goes against everything. This person used all the information that was given them not to help and to treat these people, but instead to use it against this lady so she could steal her boyfriend. Like, what is going on? But that does not mean that your boyfriend is off the hook. He cheated on you. And that is something you definitely need to consider regardless of what you decide to do. His initial instinct when this lady started coming on to him and forcing him to get away from you should have been to turn around and run away. But instead, he entertained the idea and he let this lady manipulate him. And honestly, that is not acceptable either. So this is a really tough one, but honestly, there are red flags all over the place that you really need to consider. And regardless of what happens, I think most of all, I really hope you're able to get this therapist in trouble, because God knows what she's already done to other people in other situations. And if you can play a role in stopping that, then that's probably the best thing that'll come out of this. My ex-girlfriend is upset that I changed the Netflix password, and I'm not sure what to do about it. My girlfriend broke up with me last Tuesday, and it was pretty heavy. I spent a week asking her to take me back and forgive me every day until I got tired and just stopped. I always chase her. We've never gone more than 10 hours without speaking until yesterday. I didn't say a word to her for 24 hours until something happened and I had to clear something up. But she was telling me she doesn't love or care about me. She told me to leave her alone, yet she didn't block me like she normally would, mostly out of anger. I mean, I did mess up and she has every right to hate me and never speak to me again. So I changed my Netflix and YouTube TV password. I also followed some celebrity girl she was upset about, all on impulse. I thought it was over for good. The things she said were hurtful, but I guess I jumped ahead of myself because she's still pretty upset that I followed this celebrity. She's also super upset about me changing my passwords. It just doesn't make sense why she'd be so upset and bothered if she was really done with me anyways. It's conflicting. I mean, what would you do in this situation? She said she just wants to be friends, but to me, she didn't expect me to do that. I usually chase after her. I think she sees me changing it and following another girl as me actually moving on, which is what she doesn't want. She's just being difficult. I don't know. I would like to be with her still, but only if she goes and works on herself. I've never given this girl space. We've never gone a day without speaking, so she has to be losing her mind about the fact that I didn't say a word to her for an entire day, as well as other things that we normally do. She has her own Netflix account that she shares with her family, so no, I don't think she is using me. And she even had Netflix before we met. She just noticed that I logged out. And blocking her does nothing. I'm already blocked on Instagram and Twitter, but my accounts are public because of business, so it doesn't matter. My solution is giving her space and just focusing on myself. It feels like she wants to work stuff out, but she doesn't want to give in too easily. She's playing games with herself, really. Honestly, I'm not sure what I should do in this situation. I want to start off before I make any kind of comment on this by saying that the original poster is 28 years old and his ex-girlfriend is 24. When I first read this, I thought they were both teenagers in high school based on the way they're acting. Like, the amount of immaturity that I'm seeing in here is just really ridiculous. Like, I can kind of see why this girl broke up with the original poster, because the original poster is being really freaking weird. Like, I'm all about spending time with your significant other and taking care of each other and whatnot, but it sounds like this guy takes it to another extreme that just seems really obsessive. It seems like both of them are playing games to try and get the other person back, and it just does not seem like a healthy relationship for either of them. Like, if I'm going to be in a relationship, I want the other person to be dedicated to me. I don't want them to break up with me just to play games. Like, I don't got time for that, and I don't know many people who would. So yeah, both of these people in this situation absolutely need to grow up, because one of you is almost 30 and this behavior is really weird. Today I messed up by lying to my girlfriend about liking lemons for 3 years. I started dating my girlfriend close to 3 years ago, and at the start of the relationship, we were chatting, and a topic came up about things we like and dislike. It was a pretty typical conversation. I mentioned how I don't like to eat liver, and she mentioned that she's not a big fan of fish. It was nothing unusual. Then she asked if I like lemons. Now, I have nothing against lemons. I sometimes add a slice to my tea or drizzle a bit of lemon juice over fish, so I said, yeah, sure, I like lemons. She got all excited and told me that she loves lemons, which I found a little odd, but didn't think twice of it. The next time we met up, she came over with a lemon drink, asking about how she finally found a good brand with proper lemon flavor and wants to share it with me. I drank some and it was way too sour for me, but she was being all cute and excited and I didn't want to bring her down, so I lied and said that it was great. Sure, I should have been honest, but I figured it was a one-time thing, so what's the harm in making your girlfriend happy? Well, that's a big mistake. As it turns out, she was a huge fan of lemons, drinking lemon beverages, picking lemon-flavored options in restaurants, putting lemon juice on every meal, even just eating lemons by themselves. We haven't been dating long at that point, but even so, I honestly don't know how I didn't spot this sooner. She lived by herself, and her vegetable drawer in the fridge was always full of, guess what? That's right, lemons. It was bearable at first, but kept escalating, and I really wasn't sure what to do. She was always so excited about having this common interest with me, so I tried to find a way to get through it, like carrying sugar packets with me in secret to try and dull the sourness. A few months into the relationship, we've had to unexpectedly switch to dating long distance. Obviously, I was sad to be apart and only getting to see her for a few weeks at a time, but a part of me was kinda glad to be able to take breaks from the lemon frenzy. Since then, we've been dating long distance for over 2 years now, and we have both gotten used to the routine, and I thought that I had the situation under control for the most part. Well, I was wrong. This is where the mess up happened. While we were apart, she met up with her friends that she hasn't seen in a long while, and apparently her love for lemons came up in the conversation. She told them about how much she loves them, and how huge of a coincidence it was that I shared her love for them as well. Apparently her friends found the idea hilarious and started joking about how funny it would be if I was faking it for the last 3 years and constantly suffering whilst having to pretend that I love them just as much as she does. They even jokingly proposed for her to tell me that she has gotten sick of the lemons just to see what my reaction would be. Well, as you may have guessed where this is going, she ended up actually doing this, and I absolutely fell for it. Now she won't talk to me because she feels that I've been deceiving her for the past 3 years and that she can't trust me, especially since we're in a long-distance relationship where trust is everything. I don't know how I'm going to fix this, but if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, for the love of God, don't pretend that you're into lemons. This is hilarious. You know how you make it up to her? Just get her a bag of lemons. How can someone possibly be this obsessed with lemons? Like, lemons are cool and all, but like all the time for every meal, everything? That's way too much. For me, that'd be a big red flag even going into this relationship. And yeah, you probably shouldn't have lied about liking lemons that much, but at the same time, who in their right mind could have seen it escalate to this? Like, okay, you probably should have said something sooner, but this lady is clearly unhinged when it comes to lemons. And to be completely honest with you, if this is the deal breaker, if this is what sets her over the edge and says, hey, I don't want to be with you, then my God, I think you dodged a big one, buddy. All jokes aside, I really hope this gets worked out. This seems like such a silly thing to get upset over, but I guess if it's your whole life, I can kind of see where it would get weird. I think your best bet, honestly, is just to apologize and explain yourself. Maybe even explain to her that, hey, I don't like lemons that much, but I do love you. I've been eating lemons for 3 years just to put up with it because I love you. If you say something like that, you might just win her back. But what would you do? Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in this situation? My friend comes over my house and proceeds to overstay her welcome. So my friend and I were chatting about stuff, just catching up a little bit, as we haven't talked in a small bit. Then she brings up the idea of her coming over to hang out for a little while. I said, sure, it'll just be a few hours long anyways, right? Well, I was wrong. Anywho, she comes over and all is well. We're laughing and joking about occasionally, but she is actually kind of ignoring me. I almost always had to start the 5-second conversations that we would have. Then when the time for her to leave rolls around, she suddenly asks if she can stay the night. Alright, unplanned for sure, but I guess that's alright. She then finds my laptop and proceeds to use it. Yeah, I guess that's okay as well. A little weird, but sure. She logs into her account on a game, plays for a bit, then joins another game, and suddenly starts a free art business exchange on Discord. It wouldn't be a problem except she used my account and she didn't get my permission. She got several firm no's after I found out, but wouldn't stop using my account. I felt a bit frustrated. After all, if she did a few clicks of digging, some of my information would be revealed to her. She could ruin everything and people wouldn't believe me if I told them that she did it. Knowing that, I felt a bit frustrated and anxious. And when begging her to stop wouldn't work, I did the only thing that came to mind. I reached for the mouse. As soon as I was super close to laying a firm grip on the mouse, she grabbed my arm and bit me. Not even a delicate bite either. She bit down with all of her might. It felt painful naturally. In a panic, I tried to fight back. But you know, can't really do much when your limbs are the equivalent to spaghetti. Once she lets go, she finally stopped using my account. However, the business still required my account since she was using my laptop, and I had to send her the photos of the drawings from my account. I sadly complied. It got annoying fast, since I constantly had to pause whatever I was doing to take pictures. She didn't consider it to be annoying though. At first, she tried to convince convince me to let her use my email. I gave her a firm no, she asked again, and then another no. After an evening of frustration, I went to go to bed. She then found a game she couldn't play because she didn't have the account age required. So she convinced me to play using the alternate account. Regretfully, I accepted again. I went to go to bed again, but I just couldn't. Everything was so loud. Before I knew it, it was 1 in the morning and I forced myself to sleep. I woke up pretty early, in fact. They were awake too, and not with a pretty sight. There were forgotten wrappers strewn everywhere, here and there, and a few empty glass bottles on the floor in a pile, left out for who knows how long. The once clean room looked dirty and abandoned in the spot she sat in. I felt a bit repulsed, to be honest. After a few hours had passed, she begged to stay another night. I didn't want to, but unfortunately my parents said yes. Thankfully, nothing really happened the next day, except I revealed to both of them the disgusting thing she did that night. After that, my parents were pretty quick to get her out of the house. I don't think she'll ever be spending the night at my house ever again. Yeah, I'll say so. She bit you on the arm. How are we just letting that slide? If anyone bites me on the arm, I'm immediately getting them out of the house. And depending on how severe it is, I'm calling the police. What on earth is that all about? It sounds like the situation involves people who are very young, so I can kind of understand how things went down, but please tell me that this is somehow your ex-friend now. The fact that you agreed to so many things and you were such a pushover when this person was invading all of your privacy, regardless of what they were doing, is really baffling. This is a solid lesson in the fact that you need to learn how to say no. And guess what? It is okay to say no. You don't have to cave in at anyone's demand at the drop of a hat. It is okay to say no, get lost. So yeah, next time think more carefully about who you let over to your house, because you might have somebody sleep over who's going to make a mess, use your laptop without your permission, and then bite you if you try to stop them. And honestly, nobody needs that. Today, I messed up by making my son cry at his birthday party. My son had his 3rd birthday party today. He had been asking for anything and everything Animal Crossing related, so me and my wife thought it would be a good idea to buy him a cake with his favorite character on top of it. The cake looked wonderful, and his favorite character, Isabelle, was standing on top of it. It was very well made too. The bakery told us that Isabelle was a molding made out of chocolate, so it was all edible. My son adored his cake and spent a full 10 minutes talking to the chocolate Isabelle, all before the guests arrived. Soon enough, everyone arrived and the party started. After dinner, we sang happy birthday. My son blew out all of his candles, and I got a knife out to cut the cake. His eyes widened and he freaked out. He screamed, "Papa, no! Don't cut Isabelle!" My wife looked at me and mouthed that she would go calm him down. I nodded to her and they left the room as I cut the cake for the rest of the guests. This is understandable, right? I'm sure after my wife explains what happened to the cake, he'll be okay. Yeah, that's not what happened. I was curious to try the molding chocolate Isabelle, so I removed her from the cake and placed her on a cutting board. The Isabelle molding was a lot larger than you would think. I cut off her little legs and used my fork to bring the chocolate to my lips, and that's when I heard a blood-curdling scream from my son. "Papa, why are you eating Isabelle?" That's when I realized I messed up. My son thought the chocolate Isabelle was living and breathing. My son walked in on his father cutting and eating his favorite character that he was thoroughly convinced was alive and breathing. My son broke down into tears and held the legless Isabelle in his hands while sobbing his heart out at the dinner table. He received a plush Isabelle from his auntie, and now he refuses to let me touch her, saying anytime I come near it, "Papa's gonna eat her again." So yeah, I'm officially banned from being anywhere near his Animal Crossing collection in fear of me eating their legs. On one side, it's absolutely hilarious. I think if anything, this man created a new core memory for his son. He will definitely never forget this. On the other end of it, this is kind of sad. Thankfully, there was an Animal Crossing plushie to try and take the place of the Isabelle that you just absolutely mutilated. I mean, you chopped it up on a chopping board. You gotta be a little bit more subtle and discreet than that. Overall, this is absolutely hilarious, and I died laughing about 12 times while trying to read this. Today, I messed up by taking a gel capsule before running an errand. Yes, this did actually happen today. So I take a medicine that comes in gel capsules every morning. It's filled with a blue liquid, and it's about the size of a black bean, so it's pretty big. This morning, I took it right before leaving to drop the dog off at her playgroup, which is about a 10-minute drive. I take the medicine, wash it down with a few gulps of water from my water bottle, and I head out the door with the dog. Simple enough. About 2 minutes into the drive, one of my sinuses starts hurting. You know that sinus holes at the back of your mouth? I'm not sure of their technical name, but I don't know what else it is. Those start burning. One of them specifically starts burning like I poured lemonade back there or something, because it was messing up my sinuses. So far, it's not too bad, just really annoying, especially since I left my water bottle at home. 2 minutes minutes later and it's burning really badly, and there's a horrible taste in my mouth. That's when I realize I somehow managed to snort the gel capsule into my sinuses, where it is now dissolving the gel cap and releasing the medicine. Now, since this medicine comes in a gel cap, the liquid inside is not treated in any way to disguise the flavor or mitigate the burning sensation in my mouth, so it tastes and feels like I would imagine battery acid would taste and feel like. We are now almost at the daycare drop-off, and I managed to get the dogs inside. My nose and eyes are streaming. Thank God I had a face mask in the car, and I run back to my car, intending to get home as fast as possible. The drive home was the longest 10 minutes of my life, including labor with 2 kids. I cried all the way home. It burned so badly, and since your sinuses go throughout your whole freaking head, various parts of my head are burning at various points, including the tubes leading to my ears. Of course, the usual drive home is also complicated by the fact that it's start time for the high school, which is between our house and the doggy daycare, and dozens of teenagers are wandering across the streets without looking, all while I'm attempting to drive. And I can now barely see because of the constant stream of liquid coming from my nose and eyes. I literally at one point had the thought, I'm gonna pass away. I'm going to unalive and be a headline. I'm going to win a Darwin Award. 40-year-old woman with multiple graduate degrees somehow manages to unalive herself by snorting an over-the-counter medicine in the form of a gel capsule. Story at 6. All this flashed through my head. And the traffic going into the school is taking forever to move. Finally, I make it home. I dash into the house, shedding my possessions left and right. I run to the kitchen thinking just one thing. I need to find a way to flush my sinuses. I don't have a neti pot, so I dug through a kitchen drawer and grabbed a turkey baster. I sucked up ice water from my water bottle and shot it up my sinuses as hard and as fast as I could, until a partially dissolved gel capsule falls out of my face hole and the burning decreases marginally. Even 3 hours later, I'm still swallowing fluid that tastes like medicine as it drains out of my sinuses. It is really gross, and I'm just happy that the burning sensation has gone away. That sounds like an absolute nightmare. I don't know why you didn't stop at the doggy daycare and ask them for some water or something. And yeah, I think you're right. That would qualify as a Darwin Award. I think the dumbest thing I've done that comes close to that is driving home after having my eyes checked and dilated. That was a nightmare and the biggest mistake of my life. So I totally understand what you mean when you're going past a school and you're like, oh no, this might be it. So be careful the next time you take your medicine, because you could very well light your sinuses on fire and ruin your day. An entitled Karen demands that I give my plane tickets to her as well as her child. So this happened in 2019. I was about to turn 18, so my parents gave me money. I always had wanted a fursuit, so of course I ordered one. Furry Migration 2019 was September 6th, so me and my friends were going to Virginia Beach. My neighbor had a kid that turned 7 the previous month, and the problem was that the kid was very annoying, and equally so, his mother was an absolute Karen. My neighbor's special child loved to make sandcastles, and the International Sand Sculpting Championship would be also taking place in Virginia Beach on September 27th. I don't know how she knew I had tickets, probably because my parents told her, but one day I was taking my dog for a walk when this entitled Karen came up to me and was like, "So, you were going to Virginia Beach, right?" So I just said, "Yes, I am." And I didn't tell her that it was for a furry migration because God knows how that might have gone over. When I tried to walk away, she actually stopped me and said, "Could you give me your tickets? My baby boy wants to see the sand sculpting championship." And I honestly was just so confused. I answered her by saying, "Excuse me, I bought these tickets with the money I was given as well as my own money. If you want tickets, go buy them yourself." After I said this, the entitled Karen was furious. She just looked at me completely enraged and walked back into her house. 2 days later or so, the woman came to me again and asked again for the tickets. So basically a repeat of the last time I shut her down. But this time I wasn't quite in the mood for that. So I just said, "Listen, I've waited for this since 2011, and I won't let it go just because your kid wants to see some stupidly complex sand sculptures." The mother was raging at me at this point, and she told me, "My child is more special than you. I will get those tickets by any means possible. I will call the police and tell them you stole those tickets from me." I thought she was crazy, but no, she really did call the police. About 2 hours passed until the police actually arrived, and of course, the entitled Karen lied about the tickets. The police officer then asked if he could see the tickets, and as it was clearly seen on the ticket, my name was all over it. But still, this entitled Karen lied again, trying to tell the police officer that this was her husband's name. Unfortunately Unfortunately for this Karen, the kid came up to her and the cop asked him for his full name. And at that point, the Karen was finished. We live in Mexico, and your last names are your father's first last name as well as your mother's first last name. And obviously, my last name didn't match with whatever he was saying. Because of all of this, the mother got a 2,000 peso fine for lying to the police and trying to steal. Despite everything, at the end, I did go to the convention, which would be my first one with a fursuit. And to this day, I will never forget that entitled Karen and her stupid child. It is absolutely crazy to me that someone would call the police and try to lie to the police over something like this. It is horrible that this lady tried to use the police to get this kid's plane tickets to Virginia Beach just so they could see some stupid sandcastles. Like, honestly, who does that? Who's so unhinged that they would try and lie to the police and get you in trouble just to get those tickets? Why not just buy them yourself and stop hassling other people? It's such a weird thing to do. Also, how does this Karen not know that tickets can't be transferred like that? Like, you can't just work the system and try and take someone else's plane ticket and try and go to another country like that. Like, there's gonna be checks and balances along the way. This Karen was clearly unhinged and absolutely out of it, because any rational human being would know that you can't do that. So good for this person for standing up for themselves and not allowing some weird Karen to try and walk all over them. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. A lady tries to steal $2,000 worth of prepaid credit cards. When I worked at a popular supermarket just before the pandemic took off, this lady wanted to buy several $200 credit cards, all with $20 bills. I thought it was odd to pay in such small bills, but didn't worry about it too much. After counting it out herself, she would hand me the money so I could also count it. And when I finished, she'd ask to see the money back, which was also kind of weird, and I still didn't know why she was doing that. Then with a sleight of hand, she'd skim off some of the bills off the bottom of the stack really quickly. I sort of noticed at first, but thought I was seeing things and didn't want to cause any issues, so I just took the money. If that had been the only transaction, she might have gotten away with it, but luckily we were doing 2 purchases, and I definitely noticed this second time, especially as I recounted the money. I realized that even when counting the whole register's worth of money, there wouldn't have been enough bills in there to cover the first purchase of the cards. When I tried telling the lady that there was not enough money, she acted confused and pretended like she couldn't speak English, even though she was speaking fine earlier. Anyhow, a coworker was in my line, so I got her attention and let her know that there was an issue. So I asked her to grab a supervisor to let them know the situation as well. The lady was still standing there, and I'm kind of surprised she didn't try running. After a bit of time, the lady got off easy. She finished her purchase of the second set of credit cards and made her way out of the store, having paid the full price for the set. Unfortunately, at the time, we couldn't prove that she skimmed money off the pile of bills, so she basically got away with the first set of stolen credit cards. Later, the security footage was reviewed, and they confirmed she skimmed the money, but it was far too late at that point. I asked what was going to happen with her, and I was told that they would put a picture of her up and send a copy to our sister locations to warn them of a potential scammer. I wasn't punished because I did catch her early, and I stopped the second sale from being scammed, and that was honestly the end of that. After that, we never saw her again. That's a crazy story, to be completely honest. I have worked in retail as well as customer service, and this is one of the things they train you to look out for, at least when I was working in that kind of industry. You have to keep an eye out for someone trying this on you because it's a lot easier than you really think. Someone could very easily practice this and take money from you and completely ruin your drawer at the end of the day. If you're unfamiliar or if you haven't worked in this kind of environment before, your drawer at the end of the day is counted to make sure everything's accounted for. If there's any money off, you have to do a deep search and figure out where you messed up. And trust me, that is not a fun feeling. And if the drawer is somehow off, then guess what? That can potentially come out of your paycheck. So you always want to make sure you're getting and receiving the proper amount of money. It honestly kind of sucks that this lady didn't get caught in the end, but honestly, what can you do? But the fact that they put her picture up all over their store, as well as letting sister locations know that, hey, there's a scammer out there that's using sleight of hand to try and get money from you, is really, really good, because you know what? That's the best you can do in this kind of situation. And honestly, good for this employee for catching this in the first place. This is really, really easy to miss if you're not careful. So hopefully this lady never comes back to that store again. And if she does, I really hope she gets caught red-handed and prosecuted for stealing from the store. I caught my boyfriend cheating, and he told me that he still wants to keep our relationship going. And I honestly don't know what to do. As a bit of backstory, me and my boyfriend have always had a very bro-ish way of talking to each other. We call each other over all kinds of things like home slice and brother. The way I talk has always been closer to being one of the boys, if you know what I mean. We honestly both really enjoy it, and our mutual friends get a kick out of it, so it always gets a good laugh. We have been dating for about a year now, after being friends for a while first, and things have been going really well, or at least so I thought. About a week ago, he left the city we both live in to visit his parents a few hours away. No biggie, pretty normal thing to do for the most part. He was staying for a few days, and one night I called him just to chat. His phone rang a few times before he picked up, only he didn't pick up. Instead, his phone was in his pocket, and it must have answered by accident. All I heard was the sound of him kissing someone else and other noises, if you know what I mean. I'll spare you the details, to be honest. My jaw dropped. I was in shock. I didn't say anything or hang up, I just waited. After a few more minutes, he must have been going to take off his pants or something and took the phone out of his pocket, where I assume he saw it was currently on a call with me. There was a silent stillness for a few seconds before I heard him whisper my name under his breath. He giggled quietly and said, "Ah well, cope and seethe," before hanging up the phone. I was so confused. I just sort of sat there for a while on my bed until I fell asleep. The next day, I woke up to a missed call from him. When I called him back, he asked me if I had heard anything on the phone last night. I confirmed the things I had heard, and in the most mature, logical tone my voice could muster at the moment, I asked him if this was it, and if he was done with the relationship. He said, and I quote, "Nah, I still want to date you. You've been kind of falling off recently, so I've been messing around a little. Hope that's cool." I get that our relationship is very casual, but how far is too far? He is normally fun and kind, but this just seemed too much. Would it be overreacting to break up with him over this? What do I do? If I was in your shoes, this would be a complete deal breaker. There's no way I would allow my significant other to cheat on me like that and then try and act like it's super casual. Like, there's other things you can be super casual about, but this is not one of them. This is a huge betrayal of trust. There's no way on earth I would allow that to slide. And most of all, he's so disrespectful about it. It's like he doesn't even care about the current relationship he's in. He's just using you. Like, from what you've described, it sounds like he doesn't even feel bad about cheating on you. It sounds like he thinks that you're gonna be okay with this in some way, which honestly, I wouldn't if I was in your shoes. If you did stay with someone like this, what kind of future would you have? That would be honestly a nightmare to deal with. You could never trust this guy with anything. So best of luck with whatever kind of relationship you're looking to have with this guy, and hopefully you're able to see that you can do a lot better than this guy casually cheating on you. My best friend is chronically late, and I'm honestly not sure how to deal with this. Well, the title says it all, and I really mean it. My friend is chronically late, 30 minutes to an hour late. Last time we were supposed to hang out, he was an hour and a half late, which is a lot even for me. His excuse was that his brother needed his help with moving some furniture, and that he had to do that for an hour. Then it took another half hour to get where I was, and he didn't take this into account. But he always has convenient excuses for why he's late. And I'm not heartless here. Things come up, I get it, sure. And being late now and again is only human. But my friend has been late every time for the past 2 years. Not even joking. The reason why I remember this is because I was so surprised when he was on time once. It just simply never happens. The thing is, he is one of my best friends and a genuinely sweet person, which is why our friendship has lasted. I love him like a brother, but I'm starting to feel like he's taking me for granted. Our friend group used to be larger, but his relationship with the others has fallen apart, in part because of the fact that he's always chronically late. He clearly likes and cares for all of us, but he doesn't respect our time, and because of this, he's built up a reputation for being untrustworthy. So I really want to help him with this, not only for my own convenience and sanity, but also because I know that he will keep on ruining his friendships if he doesn't improve on this. So I'm not sure what to do. Is it wise for me to even bring this up to him at all and to expect him to actually change? Or should I learn to just let this go? Has anyone ever actually dealt with something like this before? What should I do? This does not sound like a very good friend in my opinion, and I completely understand why your other friends have kind of kicked him to the curb. Not respecting someone else's time and being an hour and a half late is unbelievably inconsiderate. For me, that's a complete lack of caring as well as a complete lack of respect for the person you're dedicated to. And by dedicated to, I mean you've made plans with them, there's some kind of mutual expectation that you're going to show up, and when you don't honor that, that loses trust immediately. I can understand some things coming up where you're like, hey, I have to try and do this thing real quick, or hey, an emergency popped up. That's understandable. But when it's been happening for 2 years and you still have not told them about this or done anything to try and fix the problem, then honestly, you're just kind of walking into it at that point. We have cell phones nowadays. There's literally no good excuse, in my opinion, to be an hour and a half late, even 2 hours at some point, to anything. At that point, you might as well not even show up. Anything past 15 minutes and I'm like, all right, they're just not showing up. There are tools available that this person could use that would help them get things going, like, I don't know, an alarm clock. Conveniently enough, your phone has an alarm on it that you could set saying, hey, you need to leave now. To try and help the situation, I mean, you could start lying to your friend about the time at which you're meeting up. Instead of actually meeting up at 10, you could be like, hey, we're meeting up at 8:30, and then just hope he shows up at 10. But even then, that's super unfair for you. You shouldn't have to lie to your friend just to try and have some semblance of a friendship with them. So I wish you the best of luck in figuring this one out, but I can tell you right now, if your friend doesn't want to change, no amount of help on your end is going to make them show up on time. Because I can tell you personally, if someone was an hour and a half late to something that I was planning, I would just leave and probably not want to deal with them ever again. And I would almost hope that they would complain that I left them, because I would then go into it and be like, hey, we were supposed to be there an hour and a half ago and you didn't show up. So yeah, in my opinion, you don't really need that kind of energy in your life, and you could do a lot better with people who actually want to show up, as well as respect your time and your energy. Today I messed up by driving 2 hours for my best friend's gender reveal. My best friend is currently pregnant with her second child, and her aunt is throwing her a gender reveal party. We've been friends since college when she had her first son, but haven't been able to see each other much over the past 5 or 6 years. I'm really excited to see her and her family, because now we live in separate states. 2 hours isn't a lot, but she and I have a hard time keeping jobs where we don't work weekends, and I was the only one who could drive until recently. All yesterday morning, I was preparing and making sure that me and my boyfriend were ready before we started making the trek. We weren't planning on staying the night because we have pets, but it was going to be a long afternoon regardless. My boyfriend isn't a fan of social situations, especially ones where he doesn't really know anyone, but he loves me very much, and I make it up to him in other ways to show him how much I appreciate it. The ride was nothing abnormal, driving major highways and spending way too much on gas and tolls, all before we finally get to the small street she lives on. I'm slowly driving along and notice there isn't a whole lot going on. We arrived right on time, so I thought maybe we were just some of the first people to show up, but the street was very unoccupied by cars, and I hear no sort of party. I go up to the house, not really sure what to do, so I just ring the doorbell. She definitely has one of those camera-based doorbells, so being the awkward person that I am, I try not to look directly into the camera. I consider myself a polite person, so I waited a few minutes before calling my best friend to see where I was supposed to go, and because she's a wonderful human being, she answers right away. But there's something very clear in her voice. She was definitely sleeping, and that's when it hit me. I was a week early to the gender reveal party. I started laughing, and my boyfriend was face palming with a silent laugh. My best friend was trying to make me feel less like an idiot, and I apologized more than I ever have in my life, whilst trying not to cry. My best friend was taking a nap, and because I don't want to take a pregnant woman from her nap, those being my exact words, I decided it would be best to drive home. I am a very emotional person, and while I know this is going to be the funniest story to tell later, I still cried half the drive home. We decided to go out for dinner since I had gotten dressed up and went to our favorite brewery nearby for food and craft beer. There was a large group with a lot of preteen boys whom were running around as preteen boys do, and halfway through our meal, one of the dads at the table bought me and my boyfriend another drink as a thank you for dealing with his kids. I admit we were both kind of tipsy when we left to go home, but the brewery is very close to our house and we take a lot of back roads to get there anyways. We got home, my boyfriend feeds the pets, I lay down on the bed where I promptly fell asleep until about 1 in the morning. Somewhere in there, my boyfriend came in to cuddle with me, as well as to wake me up, but I am a bad influence and somehow managed to suck him into sleeping with me. I woke up very dehydrated, my makeup all over my face, and my eyes in pain from sleeping with my contacts in. Overall, it's been a rough day. That is a rough day. Driving 2 hours to a party that isn't happening until a week later is a terrible feeling. I can't imagine how awkward that must have been at the doorstep when your friend had to explain, hey, that's not till next week. Hopefully all parties involved agree that this never happened and that they will never discuss this, this, because that is horribly, horribly embarrassing. So hopefully the gender reveal party goes well next week, and hopefully it doesn't get canceled without you knowing, because that would be super hilarious, but also super tragic. Today I messed up when I tried to high-five a girl on the street, and boy did it not go well. Last night I went out for dinner with a girl I met online. The two of us were done with each other by the time the bill arrived. We had zero chemistry in person. I was so disappointed that I decided to walk home instead of calling an Uber. I live in a city that loves to celebrate on the weekends, so the walk did a good job of distracting me from overthinking my disappointing date. The streets were busy too. The clubs were absolutely packed and all of the restaurants that I saw were full. Along the way, I noticed an attractive girl standing outside one of the popular pubs. I assumed she was either under the influence or high, or both based on the way she was staring at the night sky and smiling. It was none of my business, and I was prepared to just walk past her without reacting, but as soon as I was close enough, she randomly raised her hand like she was waiting for me to high-five her. Not being one to let a high-five go to waste, I did what I thought she wanted and I high-fived her. The moment our hands connected, she unexpectedly pulled me in for a hug and literally squeezed me like we were reunited after Thanos snapped us out of existence. It was unbelievably random, but considering how I was feeling after my date, I accepted the warm embrace of an attractive girl who may or may not have been on another planet mentally at the moment. Less than 5 seconds into the hug, I got pulled away by an aggressive guy who then headbutted me. For some reason, the girl was still holding on to my hand and ended up going down with me as I fell to the ground. The aggressive guy also lost his balance somehow and landed on top of me. Based on the number of times he said ouch back to back, it was safe to say the headbutt hurt both of us. A group of random strangers from the pub intervened before things could escalate. I was picked up and pulled in one direction while the aggressive guy and the girl was being pulled in another direction. From what I could hear through the noise, the aggressive guy was under the impression that his girlfriend, aka the hugger, needed to be rescued from the creep on the street who, guess what, apparently was me. Thus the guy headbutted me in the head. The girlfriend was an unreliable witness because she had no idea who I was or what was happening. So there I was, not only trying to recover from a headbutt, but also trying my best to make the aggressive guy understand that his girlfriend made the first move. The aggressive guy got even more aggressive after that because apparently I made it sound like his girlfriend was just trying to mess around with another guy. That was not my intention at all, but the damage was pretty much already done. The aggressive guy basically threatened my life, so at that point I got scared and I ran away. What a weird story, as well as a weird thing to get angry over. Like, your girlfriend is very clearly under the influence and is hugging random people on the street. Like, that's not the fault of the guy that high-fived her. But also in that same thought, yeah, you probably should not have high-fived the random drunk girl staring at the sky. Like, that's probably not the best decision. I don't think he could have possibly predicted that she was going to hang on to him like she's a leech, which would then result in him getting headbutted in the forehead. But I mean, here we are. When it really came down to it, there was no winning that situation. That guy was probably going to be mad at this guy walking by pretty much no matter what. So there's no point in trying to fight a drunk guy who's clearly under the influence and is just going to be super aggressive no matter what. I think his response of running away was probably the best solution for this situation. So the moral of the story is, don't high-five people you don't know, because there might be a boyfriend waiting around the corner ready to headbutt you. My entitled little brother steals my mini bike and goes for a joyride, all while my parents sit by and do nothing to stop him. It got so bad that I nearly called the police. When I was 17, I bought a used mini bike and used it to get to and from a part-time job. My little brother is something else. He was the boy that my parents extra coddled because he was diagnosed as high-functioning autistic. And anything I had, my brother had to have too. And if I refused to give it to him, my parents generally just took it from me. At least until that behavior was exposed to the public, when my parents tried to cancel my 14th birthday. After that, my parents stopped forcing me to give my stuff to my brother whenever he wanted. And that led to some extra huge tantrums from him. My brother would look for things around the house to throw to the floor and to break. Usually dishes, to be honest. My parents actually stocked up on plates from secondhand stores because of that. Crazy stuff if you think about it. When I got the mini bike, my brother was upset I wouldn't let him take it for a ride. But he's destructive with all of my stuff. Every time he broke his BMX, I'm the one who had to fix it. Change a flat, new pedals, new tire, new handlebars, new brake line. It's all up to me. He's got a stunt BMX that he begged for, and my parents spent hundreds on it. But as much as he loves it, he never fixes it himself or properly takes care of it. He just calls me over begging me to fix it. My parents got him the parts and the tools, but he never bothers to do anything more than pumping up a tire. And even then, he usually tries tries to get someone to do it for him. He's also very careless in where he leaves the bike. He left it in a neighbor's driveway once, and its handlebars got run over by the neighbor's van. He somehow destroyed the pedals, and a new pair had to be put on. He even broke the rear brake line, all while having a tantrum. The tire was understandable though, since those tend to wear out easily. But it wasn't hard to swap it, and I shouldn't have to come over on a Saturday to do it when my brother is perfectly capable of doing it himself. So the answer is absolutely no. I'm not letting him take my mini bike on a joyride, especially with gas prices being so high these days. The mini bike gets 60 miles per gallon. It can only really go 40 miles an hour, and I have a 5-mile commute anyways. About a month before my brother's 14th birthday, my parents called me begging me to come over and fix the BMX again. My bratty little brother had once again worn down the rear tire to its threads. I was absolutely annoyed, but I came over anyway because they offered to pay me. I swapped the tire and I sat down for a bottle of water because it was like 100 degrees out that day. My brother watched me work on the bike till I was done. His helmet was on, so I figured he was just waiting to go for a ride on his bike. But the moment my back was turned, I heard my mini bike start up outside and then take off. My little brother took off like a rocket down the street before I could get out of the garage and try and stop him. I freaked out, but my parents tried to play it off. Though when I didn't placate them, they said they'd get my mini bike back right away. But for them, that was more like just waiting till my brother came back with it. I was annoyed and I kind of wanted to call the police, but I'm not sure if they'd call it a domestic issue or not. My brother finally came back an hour later. He'd somehow not crashed, which is honestly just a miracle. But the moment he saw me, he took off again. He drove the bike till it ran out of gas, and my parents had to go get him. To say I was furious was an understatement, but my parents basically rolled their eyes, handed me $40, and claimed it wouldn't happen again. I said it better not, or I'm gonna call the police next time. I wasn't sure if it would help, but they definitely took my warning to heart. I had to push my mini bike to the nearest gas station to fill up before I could even go home. Before I left, I told my parents that if my brother wants a mini bike so bad, then they should get him one themselves. But then they pulled a 180 and said he wasn't ready to have one because it's a big responsibility, and that it was too dangerous because it's practically a motorcycle. I mean, really? They just let him steal mine for 2 hours to go joyriding to God knows where, and they don't want him to get one themselves? Whatever. I'm honestly used to their hypocrisy by this point. The last time I went to my parents' house, my brother was massively grounded and in his room. But just to be sure, I pulled the spark plug wire off my bike before I entered the house. My brother was glaring at me from his window when I left. I just gave him a goofy wave and drove off. What a crazy story. The fact that the parents just let this happen and allowed this stupid little brother to go joyriding on a mini bike is crazy. If you're not familiar with driving on a mini bike, let me tell you, they can go fast and they can go fast very quick. So if you're not ready, you could fall and really hurt yourself. So it's a miracle that this bratty 14-year-old didn't bust his head open or something. And the fact that his parents did absolutely nothing to stop this from happening speaks volumes to the type of parents they are. They would much rather try to coddle this annoying, entitled little brat instead of trying to give back the property to their son, who is clearly not happy that it got stolen. So hopefully stuff like this doesn't happen again, and hopefully that kid can grow up and become a better person, because stealing somebody's mini bike just to go on a joyride will only eventually lead to you getting arrested by the police. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not shaking the other team's hand after they taunted us the entire game? This happened about a year ago. I used to play football in a community league. Towards the end of our season, we played this one team called the Cowboys. The Cowboys absolutely beat us down. I'm talking 48-0 kind of beat down. It was so bad that the toughest player on our team was crying at halftime. Saying we were humiliated was an understatement. After the game was over, we were supposed to line up in the middle of the field and shake hands. The Cowboys, though, had other plans. When we were all lined up, they grabbed their team flag and started running down the entire length of the field, screaming, "You guys suck!" We were obviously very pissed. My coach, who I'll call Coach Woods, that's not his real name, decided we would not shake their hands after this display of unsportsmanlike behavior. So we waited until they finally decided to line up to shake our hands, and then we turned around and walked away. My coach said, "We're not going to bow down to them." That's when our quarterback's Karen mom comes running onto the field. She starts cussing out the coach and screaming at him in front of everyone. Everyone was mumbling about how she was a Karen while she was doing it too. She ended up making her son go and shake the other team's hand. I agreed with the coach, but my family did not. Also, the league did nothing about it. No suspensions, no warnings, nothing. So what do you think? Am I the jerk for not shaking the other team's hand? There's no way on earth I would have gone anywhere near that other team except for some kind of physical altercation. It's one thing to win a game and absolutely get destroyed and then you end the game and that's it. It's another thing to win the game and then talk trash viciously to the other team that you just end up beating. That is a terrible look, and whoever's the coach on that team should 100% be fired. How on earth do you let your players do that and think it's okay to then line up and shake hands? I wouldn't want to shake their hands. I don't know many people who would want to shake their hands. In my opinion, the Karen mom as well as your family are complete morons. They were not in that game. They did not get beat down 48-0. And they are also not the people who got trash talked by the enemy team. Like, that's just not fair. It's one thing to watch the sport. It's a whole nother thing to be in the sport. Like, if your team won a really close game, celebrate by all means. But beating a team 48-0 is hardly a reason to try and rub it in their face that you beat them. It's completely unwarranted. Like, clearly it's just an unbalanced team, and it wasn't even close. If it was a closer game, and there really was a back and forth, then trash talk, in my opinion, is completely warranted. But in this case, it's just petty, and it's just disgusting. It's also really disturbing that the league did nothing about it. Don't they have some kind of rules or regulations about player conduct? I don't know about you, but getting in the other team's face that you just destroyed, cussing them out, and saying these terrible things is in no way a good representation of your league. And it's not something I would want in any kind of league that I'm sponsoring. So overall, you didn't do anything wrong. I think the coach was smart about saying we're not going to shake hands with them. And I think that Karen mom as well as your parents are absolutely not getting it. Because at the end of the day, respect is a two-way street. And if you're expecting to get it from somebody, you better give it to them in the first place. An entitled Karen wants to return a reusable face mask. And after not getting her away, she threatens to call the cops. So this happened last year. I was working in this retail store and we have a limited time to return items, which is just 1 week. But for reusable face masks, of course we don't accept returns, and we don't give refunds for that. It should be pretty obvious. This is clearly stated also before the purchase, and there's a sign outside so people don't have the excuse of saying they don't know our return policy. So one day, this lady comes and demands that we give her a new face mask because this one didn't fit. I told her that we don't accept return items that were used, and we will never accept a used face mask back to our store. She goes off and gets incredibly angry and starts interrupting me while I'm helping other clients. It was also during the weekend, so it was already pretty busy. Then she, of course, demanded to talk with the owner. Even though I'm one of the 3 employees, I was the one in charge because the owner wasn't there that day. So I guess I'm the manager. But that didn't help because this made her even more angry. After explaining to her why we can't accept the items, she attempts to call the police. Considering that I was just a minor working there part-time, I knew that instead of kicking out this Karen, the cops would ask why I'm working there. Because it's illegal to work until you're 18 where I'm at. I needed the job, so I just gave her a refund and then she left with her purchase. The owner eventually found out and they totally understood the situation and was really cool about me giving a refund. It wasn't a huge loss, it was just a face mask. Fortunately though, this Karen never came back to our store ever again. That situation really sucks, and I really don't think the cops would have brought up your age at all with this situation. If anything, they probably most definitely would have gotten on this Karen for wasting police time over something so ridiculous. And how would a cop know that you're a minor in the first place unless you say something? Like, in my opinion, you totally should not have let this Karen walk all over you. And I think you got super lucky here, to be completely honest. The owner easily could have fired you for letting that refund go through. And you may be thinking, it'll never happen to me, but trust me, it can and would happen to you. I think overall, it's honestly just really upsetting that people act like this, especially when it comes to items that you know you can't return. Like, who in their right mind is going to want that disgusting, gross face mask that Karen just used? Like, I know for a fact I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that, let alone try to resell that to another customer. That would be terrible. So the moral of the story, in my opinion, is don't let any Karen walk all over you like that. And if they're going to threaten to call the police, let the police show up. Let's see what happens. Because I can guarantee you that when a Karen calls the police over something so trivial, the cops are not going to be on their side. So next time, let it play out and see where it goes. I put my kids first and it hurt my mom's feelings. My family is from Indiana. We moved to Missouri in 2007 and made a life here. My My mom decided 2 years ago to uproot that life for herself and 2 of my brothers and go back to Indiana. Currently, both parents and my maternal grandparents live in Indiana. I am a mom of 2 toddlers and happily married and living my best life. I am also number 4 out of 10 kids. This year, the youngest 2 graduated high school, and even though I had zero desire, I went, with my kids, in a van for 10 hours to stay at a hotel for 4 days. Did I mention my husband couldn't take time off, so my only support was my older sister? Well, we get there on a Thursday around 5 in the morning. After we wake up for the day and eat, we load up and go to my mom's house. Her house is under 1,000 square feet and it's full of people. When my van load arrived, it was 13 people in a house without AC. My kids went insane pretty quickly. There was zero form of entertainment for the kids. My stepdad went to the cellar just to find a ball for them to play with. My daughter was quick to ask about going to the pool at the hotel, so that's what we did. We had to go to my dad's pretty quickly, but my kids come first, and there was literally nothing for them to do and no room to even sit down. My mom asked if I'd come back by after my dad's house. I said yes, but by the time we spent the evening there, my daughter was passed out. I was not about to wake her up to go back to my mom's, but apparently this was my first mistake. She said I hurt her feelings. Friday, the day of the graduation, my sister and I promised the kids that we'd go swimming, so that's exactly what we did. I then spent the day getting text messages from my mother as she explained to me that I didn't come here to swim. My mom's house was less than 10 minutes from the hotel, and she knew what our plan was. But again, I hurt her feelings because I didn't back out of my promises to my kids. Saturday was kind of boring, to be honest. I don't even remember doing anything besides dropping some money for my kids to have toys, so I could spend some time at my mom's without being outside alone and my kids kicking a ball around. Sunday, my dad drove an hour out of his way to come to the hotel and spend time with me and the kids. An hour. Plus he had work, which was 30 minutes back towards his house. I spend some more time with my mom and then I go back to the hotel to pack. Monday morning, we're getting ready to leave and my son is pulling me to the van and asking for daddy. He was having a meltdown and fast. He really wanted to go home that bad. So that's what we did. On the way home, I got an epically long email saying basically I was selfish because I didn't stop and say goodbye to my mom. She knew where we were. It would have taken her very little effort to drive over and say goodbye. She said that she isn't coming to visit us when she goes on summer vacation because we obviously don't want to see her. After seeing that, I didn't respond. A few days later, I get a message from a different sister saying mom's coming in on Monday. I had to listen to her complain about how I hurt her feelings months ago because she came by on the way through town and my kids weren't home. She knew they wouldn't be. I even told her that they wouldn't be there. Then she listed everything I did wrong the entire trip, which was basically not putting her first the entire time. Sorry, mom, but my kids come before anyone else. She then left my house for her summer vacation without waiting for my sister and her husband to get to the house. Ironically enough, she decided not to wait to see them or to say goodbye. What a nut job. I mean, what kind of person would expect you to put her before your kids? Like, if your kids are bored or if they've got something going on, guess what? You go with your kids. Like, don't get me wrong, mom and dad are super important. I get it. But your kids are very vulnerable human beings, and they deserve just as much, if not more, love and attention than anyone else would. The fact that your mom would come by your house just to complain and to make it sound like this trip was all about me and you didn't do anything about it is just really entitled and really gross. Because honestly, acting like that is just going to push your family away. It's not going to make anyone want to be around you, and definitely in this case, it's going to make sure that your daughter never comes back to your house ever again. My girlfriend of 4 years, who I've been supporting through an abusive marriage, cheated on me and secretly moved the guy into her house. I've been seeing this girl for 4 years. As of yet, we haven't come public with a relationship, as when I met her, she was still married, but no longer in a relationship with her husband. We both agreed that we are boyfriend and girlfriend in everything but public, due to the impact it could have on her divorce. When we first started seeing each other, he had fully moved out. However, a few months in, he moved back in as his living situation fell through, and as their house was co-signed, she couldn't stop him. For the last 4 years, we've been working towards being together and getting him out of her life. However, in this time, he's been really terrible to her, to the point where she's wanted to harm herself. She didn't feel that she could move out because she didn't feel her pets would be safe with him, and didn't want to go to the police because she didn't feel she could emotionally take the court. Then COVID happened, which slowed and exacerbated everything. We both love each other and agree that as soon as she gets rid of her ex, we are going to be together and pretty soon move in together. Her ex moved out of the house last September, but we've still kept things under wraps for various reasons related to stopping him coming after her money. Last year, I feel her distancing herself from me. Nothing immediately noticeable, but she seems less up for doing things physically, as well as us just meeting up less. Overall and in general, she seems to be getting colder to me and not replying to my text messages. Since the turn of the year, I've seen her less than monthly because she says that she's always just too stressed and needs to be alone due to her mental health. After driving past hers in February when she said she was out, I noticed a new car in her driveway. I texted her about it and she says it's her neighbor's son's car and she has let them use her driveway when theirs is full. I trusted her and I took her word for it. A few weeks ago, she doesn't reply to anything I send her at all day. I haven't seen her in person since April due to the above situation, so I drive out to hers and the house is empty, but her car is still in the driveway. I drive around the block and come back 5 minutes later and the neighbor's son's car that she mentioned before is in the driveway and her curtains are closed. Suspecting that something was up, I log into her Facebook. I know this isn't okay, but I was at the end of my tether. I've had her password, which she gave me for months, and have never done anything with it because I trusted her. I log into her Facebook and I find messages from a former friend in October where she is essentially arranging to have some quality time with this person right after we got back from a weekend away together. On top of that, there are more messages from another friend in 2020 where they arranged to meet up just to see what happens. I look up person number 1 and the neighbor's son's car is actually his, so she lied about that completely. I am absolutely devastated, so I end up confronting her. She refuses to speak to me in person and she says she mentally can't handle it. She has promised me that we'll talk about it, but that she can't do it right now because of her current mental state. I love her and would never force her to do anything that would put her in that mental space, but it's been 3 weeks and she's canceled this talk over 10 times. She says that she was just flirting with the guy in 2020 as she was just in a terrible place and wanted attention, but never met up with him and nothing happened. As for the other guy, she admits to spending some quality time with him, but says it was just a one-time mistake when she was in a dark place. Since the start of the year, she says he's been living in her spare room to help her with rent whilst his house is getting work done. She swears nothing has happened since October and that she still loves me and wants to be with me. The thing is though, when I drove past a few times since then, the blinds and curtains in her spare room are open. The sun rises at 4:30 in the morning at the moment, so I find it hard to believe anyone is sleeping in there. When I put this to her, she essentially said, how he sleeps is his business and it's up to him. He's not sleeping in my room. I still love her and I want to trust her, but I don't see how I can at the moment. Am I being stupid? The loss of trust for her, as well as not getting any closure from being able to see her explain things face to face, is killing me. She swears nothing is going on and he hasn't slept in her bed at all and nothing has happened since that one mistake. I knew about him before and she's always said he's never the sort of person she would ever want to be with, and it was just a physical thing between them when she was single. I'm honestly at a loss for words and I'm just not sure where to take this. You need to wake up and move on, in my opinion. This lady is absolutely using you. She wants to have some man that she slept with in her own house while still having a relationship with you. She has clearly been lying to you for years. It's time to grow up and move on. You asked the question, am I being stupid? In my honest opinion, if you stay with this lady, yes, you're being very stupid. It is genuinely time to cut this parasite out of your life. You can do so much better than this. If I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever want to be in a relationship with someone who blatantly lies to me, as well as entertains the idea of getting with people in her past just because she's feeling depressed. And you know for a fact that her using the excuse of, oh, I'm just not in a good mental state right now, I can't talk at the moment, as well as her canceling 10 times to try and talk to you in person, is more than enough evidence that not only A, does she feel guilty about this, but B, she knows for a fact that she cannot confront you about this, and that she will 100% be in the wrong. It sucks. It really does that she has replaced you and completely moved in a different direction without you. But you need to accept that and move on. There is no point in trying to hang on to a relationship that this woman has clearly abandoned. So yeah, in my opinion, it's time to move on, because this is completely unfair for you and you can honestly do so much better. My entitled mother, who's relied on me for every trip she's ever gone on, adamantly refuses to do the same for me on my first vacation ever. Back in December of 2019, I decided to buy tickets to RTX. It was an event I wanted to go to for years. I finally had enough money saved up to make it happen, and I was excited. Then Corona happened. This year will be the first RTX since 2019, and I'm excited. I've been talking about this trip since 2019, but nonstop really for the past 3 months. I've been making sure she knows about it, so there's no issues with scheduling or anything. Last Saturday, I asked her if she had time for me to explain how to take care of my fish tanks while I'm gone. I have a saltwater and freshwater tank that I need 2 cubes of food in per day. I'd also need her to pour some fresh water into my saltwater tank from jugs of water that are filled and kept by my tank. That's it. 2 cubes, pour once a day for a 4-day trip. The conversation went something like this. I said, hey, the convention's this weekend and I'm leaving Thursday and I won't be back until Monday. Can I show you what you need to do for my fish? My mom then shoots back by saying, oh, so you need me to watch your fish for you? I say, yeah, they just need food and water. That's honestly it. She then mouths off and says, and you're asking me to take care of Barnacle? Barnacle, by the way, is a family dog, not my dog specifically. She goes on to imply that the fact that she has to take care of Barnacle as well as our grandfather. All of this basically totaling to her being passive-aggressive about needing to take care of my fish. For some context, my mother loves to travel. She goes on at least 2 to 3 trips a year, often for a week or more. This past December, she went ziplining in Costa Rica for 2 weeks, a trip that she and my aunt and uncle had planned for months. For further context, my grandmother, who's her mother, was literally on her deathbed in December. She passed away in January, and while my mother was ziplining, I had to make sure my grandmother was properly cared for, woke up 2 times a night to turn her and to check her respirator, as well as many other things related to her health. I literally told my mother, do not worry about anything at home, I've got this, you go relax. Because I knew that the stress of seeing my grandmother so near death was weighing on her just as much as it was for me. There have also been numerous other trips my mom has taken where I had to care for my grandmother and the dog and my tanks in less dire circumstances. My grandmother has had Alzheimer's and dementia for about 8 years, so there was a slow and steady decline, and I was there for her when my mother went on her week-long trips. I was obviously frustrated with this, and the day after, I decided to stand up for myself and explain that I felt upset and incredibly disrespected, like she was trying to guilt trip me about me taking my one trip. I asked her if I could talk to her about how she made me feel, and surprisingly enough, she agreed to listen. I said, you implied that the responsibility of the fish that only need to be fed and watered, the dog that we've had for over a decade that has the same routine you've been a part of all that time, and my grandfather who has a home attendant for most of the day was something I was unfairly dumping on you, and honestly, I didn't like that. My mom then comes back with the perfect excuse saying, oh well, I work overtime every day and I'm tired and exhausted. And honestly, I just didn't want to do it. I don't want to have to take care of everything, but I have to because I have no choice. I'm allowed to be annoyed and upset. I was so frustrated, I just left the conversation at that. As angry and frustrated as I was, I didn't want to confront her on it because it was going to be a huge fight, and I'm not trying to have that a week before my convention. Today, I find out that she scheduled some renovations on her home upstate. They're scheduled to arrive this weekend, and worst of all, she scheduled these renovations yesterday. I don't even know what to say. She's going to be leaving the dog with my aunt, who's even less responsible than my mom is. My grandfather will be in the house alone after the home attendant leaves at 5 every day for the weekend, and my fish are basically screwed. I'm not the kind of person who hangs out at night or parties or anything like that. I never have been. But this weekend is literally the first time I'll be away from home by myself in my entire life. This weekend was planned back in 2019, but my mom respects me and my time so little that a week before the convention and days since a conversation where I explained to her that I'd need her help taking care of things at home, she scheduled renovations for the exact week I needed her. I'm so angry right now that all I can do is cry. What do I do? Your mom sucks. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. It's terrible that she is doing all this right before you finally have your own vacation. I mean, how selfish can someone possibly be? And it's not like you're asking a lot from your mom in the first place. These are very simple requests. It's not like groundbreaking stuff. Your mom is just super inconsiderate and super entitled. She even goes as far as to admit that I just don't want to do it. Yeah, well, people sometimes don't want to do things, but they do it anyways because they care for those around them. Like, that's just life. You got to do a lot of things that you don't want to do. And the icing on the cake is the fact that she's doing renovations the same week that you're going to be gone. I mean, that is just such garbage and it's so unfair. For the trip itself, I would maybe get a friend and give him a key to your house and say, hey, could you make sure my fish don't die over the weekend? I'm sure there's somebody that you know or some kind of friend or somebody that you can hire to say, hey, come over, take care of the fish because my mom sucks. Or you could even get that attendant who takes care of your grandfather, give them some extra cash and say, hey, could you take care of my fish? That way you can have some kind of peace of mind regarding your pets. Overall, this is a really terrible situation to be stuck in, and I'm really sorry you're dealing with with it, but hopefully you're able to enjoy RTX and have a good time and at least make some kind of good memories. Also, by the way, if you haven't thought about it already, now's a pretty good time to start looking at moving out, because living in that kind of environment is not fair for you or anybody else. And I honestly can't think of a better wake-up call for this mom than to dump literally all of this responsibility on her, just to see how she feels when she's asking for help. And then when that day comes, you can conveniently say, you know what, I just don't want to do it. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for finally telling the truth about my cheating wife after she lied to me for years and forced me to raise a kid that wasn't even mine? I work 2 jobs with long hours, which sucks, but I do it to provide for my wife and daughter. It is wearing me out, but when I see my daughter smile, it brightens my day and makes it all worth it in the end. But let me back up a little bit and give some backstory. I was born into foster care since I was abandoned at a church shortly after I was born. I wouldn't find out who my parents were until much later in life, but it wouldn't really mean anything, and it actually hurt me worse when I found out just how terrible they were. So I was born into 2 different foster care houses, which luckily for me were not nearly as bad as some of the places that I've heard of from other people who were put in the same scenario, and honestly, I thank God for that. My biggest dream was to have a family of my own to make up for the lack of one I ever got, and when I was 24, I met and then married my current wife after she got pregnant. I wanted to be responsible, so I did the right thing and proposed so as to take care of her and the baby. I was going to college at the time, but due to the need for money as well as a tight budget, I had to leave and find work fast. Luckily, I have friends who were able to get me a good paying job, but while it paid the bills, I would still need more to provide for the baby, so I took another job as well just so I could start saving up, and I've worked at both of these jobs for several years. Just to give you an idea, I work as security in the morning and as a chef at a dinner-only restaurant at night. So my life for the past 8 or so years has been basically me going to work early in the morning, coming home to hold my daughter, play with her for just a little bit to let her know that daddy still loves her. I would then take a little bit of a nap until I needed to go into my second job. I was the only one working since my wife insisted that she be a stay-at-home mom, which was fine with me since someone was at home to watch our daughter when she came home from school. A bit more than 2 weeks ago, I found out my wife has been cheating on me, and what I would come to learn later is that this has been going on for years. I came home early from my morning job due to the building being shut down so that the security system could be upgraded. So I went home in a good mood and thought to play with my daughter for a bit and then take a nap for my night job, just so I can actually get enough sleep for once. When I got home, I noticed a strange car in the driveway. I had never seen it before, so I honestly had no idea who it belonged to. I was worried since this is so strange, so I quietly enter my house with a tire iron just in case it was a home robbery or something along those lines so I can at least defend myself. But that wasn't the case. In fact, it was much, much worse. I heard noises that were not very appropriate coming from the direction of my wife and I's bedroom, and after a little bit of secretive investigation, I found out the worst, that yes, my wife was indeed cheating on me in our own bedroom. The revelation of this stunned me to the point that I felt my heart stop. Time slowed down and I couldn't move as I just stood there and watched everything happen. My wife then says to this man that, oh, it's fine, my husband will never know, and he'll just take care of the kid if I get pregnant again. Those words flipped my world around. I left my house just as quietly as I had entered it, and I drove off. I drove to a hilltop view of the city, which is one of the places I would go when I was younger as to give myself some peace of mind. And once I got up there, I broke down into tears. The wife I loved, the one I sacrificed so much for, had been cheating on me, and according to what I was hearing, my own daughter might not even be mine. So I got a DNA kit in secret, and I got a DNA kit for my daughter as well, without my wife knowing, and sent it in for the results. I prayed for the first time in years that my fears were wrong, that maybe I had just misheard her implications out of shock or rage. So I waited until the test results came in, and unfortunately, they proved I was not the father of our child. I remember staying home that day and waiting for her to come home as well. When she did, she saw me sitting at the table and sat down across from me. She asked what was wrong and said nothing as I slid the papers across the table that proved our daughter was not mine. Her face went white as she saw them. All I could ask her at that moment was, why? That was the only thing I could manage to say. The rage within me was indescribable at this point. She tried to make up some lie, some excuse in her head, but in the end, she told me straight out, "It's because you've never been there for me. You did this to me. I have urges you aren't around to satisfy." I left after hearing her say that. This woman, no, this monster, who told me time and time again that we didn't have enough money and that I needed to put in more hours so that we could pay for things that we needed. She actually had the audacity to tell me that her cheating on me was my fault, that me working all day to provide for my family was reason enough for her to cheat on me. Never in my life have I felt more of a temptation to resort to physical violence ever than this very moment. I packed a bag with clothes and then went to a friend's place and explained what happened. They told me to file for divorce, so I went through the process and I'm still going through it as of writing this post. The issue that might make me the jerk here is that we were invited to a family reunion this last Sunday, and I had taken time off to go. Her family respected me and thought of me as family, so we went to the reunion, since we had said we were already gonna go, and her daughter still should hang around her cousins when able to. The entire time we were on our way there, which took 3 hours by car, she begged me not to mention the cheating, or the fact that I wasn't actually this kid's father. The reason for this is that her great-grandmother, a woman in her late 90s who even I respect despite no actual blood relation to her, she was going to be there, and this was more than likely going to be her last reunion before she left to a better place. My wife didn't want her great-grandmother to know that I hate her for it. I promised nothing and simply grunted as a response. So we get there and I hang out with the guys there, as far away from my wife as I could get, and all day I hear these men tell me that I was doing such a good job being a father to our daughter. This isn't the first time they did this. Since the last reunion I went to, they explained that they hadn't approved of me at first. They assumed I was going to be a deadbeat dad sort of person, and actually apologized when they saw that I was not that type of guy. To this day, I still hold no hard feelings about that assumption, since in a way I can understand where they are coming from. But now every compliment on the matter felt like a knife in my heart, since I knew the truth about my wife's daughter, and yet I remained silent, and I just thanked them for their compliments. It wasn't until later that day that my wife's great-grandmother slowly came my way and spoke to me. She said the same thing as the men earlier, since she has seen so many parents in her life who didn't put in the amount of effort I did to raise a family. But it was at this point I finally broke down and I cried. Here I was, surrounded by my in-laws, crying hard. She took my hand and gave me a look that said, "Tell me your troubles, child." And I told her everything. The cheating, the truth about her great-granddaughter, everything. The silence that followed was indescribable, and I apologized and told them I couldn't be there anymore. I got in my car and drove 3 hours home. I didn't get my wife or her daughter. I drove home alone with my phone off. When I got home, I turned it on to see that I had so many missed calls from my wife and messages that summed up to her calling me a jerk for telling her family the truth, and that I ruined her relationship with the family, and that she was going to make my life miserable when she got back home. So I called a few friends and began the process of boxing my stuff. She got home Tuesday night via her sister driving her back, but by that point, I had all but moved into my friend's downstairs parlor area, where I am currently living at the moment. While telling the truth was honestly like lifting a burden off my shoulder, I fear the ramifications of doing so for my wife's daughter. Because I told the extended family that she is the product of an affair, she might be shunned and hated like her mother now is within her family. I never wanted this for her. I would never wish such a thing on the child, since it wasn't her choice to be born as she was. So what should I do? Am I the jerk for telling her family the truth? I don't think you're the jerk at all. I honestly, if I was in that situation, probably would have done the same thing. I can't think of a better way to get back at this lying person than to get back at them where it counts. I would scream that from the rooftops. And honestly, saying this at a family reunion for everybody to hear gets it out in the public without her trying to twist the story around. I honestly don't blame you for doing it. I think you can definitely feel like a jerk at the moment, but this lady literally ruined your life. This kid is not even yours because she cheated on you for years, and she was using you to try and get you to raise another kid for her. She was flying high while you were working your butt off every single day, working 2 jobs. I would not feel bad about this at all. This lady got what's coming to her. And yeah, she's probably going to try and make your life a nightmare, but that should be evidence enough that this lady is crazy and a terrible person. So no, you are not the jerk in the situation. The lady who cheated on you for years, who's raising a daughter that isn't even yours, she is the jerk. And I think you already know this, but you're going to be a lot happier without that psychopath in your life. I am at my wit's end with my girlfriend's phone calls, and I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have been together for 18 months. She's absolutely fantastic, and by far the best partner I have ever had. However, there is one issue that has arisen, and that's her excessive phone calls. For background, our schedules are as follows. Saturday morning to Tuesday morning, we spend time together. Tuesday to Friday, we both work intensive hours, so we can't really see one another. I mostly work from home, while her job involves a long commute. Every weeknight, we spend time together via phone or video chat chat. We talk, watch TV together, cook. It's a great way to feel connected when circumstances prevent us from actually being together. I enjoy this time very much, and we never run out of things to do or talk about. We do this for about 2 to 3 hours per night. This is not the problem. I really want to stress this to you. I enjoy this time together. However, she calls me on her morning commute into work, which is about an hour, as well as her lunch break, which is also an hour, as well as her evening commute home, which is also another hour. Unlike our nightly conversations, I do not enjoy these calls. At night, we talk about anything and everything under the sun, and the well never runs dry. The commuting phone calls are the exact opposite. She has nothing to say, I have nothing to say, and honestly, why would we? We've either just woken up or have spent a long time at work. My girlfriend is an extrovert, and I suspect she has difficulty spending time alone. The content of our daytime conversations strongly support this. In contrast to our free-flowing and natural nightly calls, the day ones are extremely forced, and I often get the impression that she's just desperate for noise of any kind. This honestly leaves me drained, because I feel like the pressure is on to supposedly entertain her in order to relieve her boredom, restlessness, or anxiety. Basically, I'm looking for advice on how to escape or at least reduce these daytime calls. I just wish it was simple because there's so many stipulations. She is an incredibly sensitive person, for one. Bringing the issue up to her will not go well. I can't do this because she will be utterly devastated. I know for a fact that one of her previous relationships ended because her ex was irritated by the frequency of her phone calls, and I do not want to make her feel the same way. I love this woman, and I don't want her to feel hurt. I also can't just make excuses every time she calls. 3 excuses per day isn't going to fly. There's only so many grandmas that can pass away for me to get out of a phone call. And I've also tried to encourage her to text me during the day instead of calling me. I wouldn't mind texting her more. It's the static nature of phone calls that are bothersome during the day. However, she does not like texting. She does suffer from ADHD and finds it hard to concentrate on texts, so that's out too. She knows that my work routine is sporadic. I have long-term deadlines, not short ones. This means that she knows I'm never technically too busy to make phone calls. So deadline-related excuses don't really work in terms of getting me out of these phone calls. I love my girlfriend. I just want to try and make this work. What should I do? I totally understand that your girlfriend is a sensitive individual, but honestly, in order for there to be proper communication, you're gonna have to say something. And it's not like you're gonna come into this and be argumentative about it. Obviously, you can just say something to the effect of, hey, can we maybe cut the conversations down? Or some kind of nice way of saying it. You are both adults, and you really should be able to talk about this without any kind of major blow up. I understand that preconceived notions about previous relationships would definitely add some stress in talking about this, but it really is possible to bring this up in a gentle way that you can both come to some kind of mutual understanding. But what would you do? Leave a comment down below and let us know. We'd love to hear it. An entitled customer tried to expose me over our restaurant's prices, but fails miserably. So today, a weird situation happened. A guy walked in and said he wanted to place an order to go. He looks at the menu for a minute and then decides to order one of our breakfast skillets. However, he wanted to add a bunch of extras and modifications. He asked for extra meat, extra cheese, hot peppers, and mushrooms. I wrote down his order and then told him the total. He immediately goes, "What? Why does it cost that much?" I explained to him that we have to charge for extras, and with extra meat, cheese, and 2 extra veggies, it adds up quite a bit. I explained to him that I had to charge 99 cents for the extra veggie and extra cheese, and $2 for the extra meat. He looks at me and says, "Seriously? You're gonna charge me 99 cents for some hot peppers and $2 for some meat?" I basically just apologized and said that these are the prices and there's not much I can do otherwise. He then says, "Never mind, that's too expensive, forget about it." Then he storms out and leaves. Well, things got more interesting when 5 minutes later the phone rings. I answer it and I can immediately tell from the voice that it's the same guy from earlier who stormed out. He orders the exact same thing as before, but leaves out a couple of the previous additions. So instead of extra meat, cheese, hot peppers, and mushrooms, he just asked for extra meat and mushrooms. He then asked me for the total again. I tell him the new total, which is less than before, since he didn't add as many things. And this is where he thought he caught me in some kind of weird conspiracy theory. He goes, "Ha, I was just in there minutes ago and ordered the exact same thing, and you said it was more. But now that you don't know what I look like, you're telling me it's some cheaper amount." I said to him, "Yeah, that's because this time you didn't add the extra cheese and hot peppers." He then just laughed and hung up the phone. I was so baffled. Like, what is this guy's problem? I'm just so tired of people saying, "I want extra this, that, and then getting mad when we have to charge them for it. So the moral of the story, if you ask for extra, you're gonna get billed for extra. How weird can you possibly be? People who act like this and fight over the prices of a store or a restaurant of some some kind are just really weird in my mind, to be completely honest. Like, these are outliers of society because those prices are not going to change for you. You are not a VIP for this restaurant. They do not care about you that much. You are a normal customer just like anybody else. So pretending like you shouldn't have to pay for stuff is this weird form of entitlement that I will never understand. So yeah, if you ask for extra stuff at a restaurant, be prepared to pay for more, because otherwise you're just going to look entitled, and everybody, including that minimum wage worker that you're currently yelling at over prices, are 100% going to make fun of you online afterwards. And to be honest, you kind of deserve it. An entitled Karen refuses to prepay for her daughter's dental checkup, so I have to put her in her place after she tries to make a scene. So first, some background information. My mom owns a dental office, and she just came back from a 3-week vacation and left me in charge of the office. Now, my job description is quite complicated because I am only available to help during the summers, and I know it may seem like I don't know what I'm doing because I got this job out of nepotism, but this is the first summer in almost 8 summers of working there where I feel I could actually handle the weight of the title of office manager. Something I've been trying to help my pushover mom with is standardizing policies. She grants a lot of exceptions for her patients, and it's very annoying unless she has an office manager who can stop her. But the pandemic lost us our last office manager, so I've tried to step up. We don't have a lot of difficult patients, but still, I knew there would be some pushback about enforcing policies. But I don't stay in the front a lot, and I'm young, so this is my first experience with an entitled Karen, and I'm pretty proud of how I handled it. So while my mom was gone, our associate dentist saw patients a few days a week, so I was the final authority if the more experienced staff had any issues. So one day, a patient comes in and assures us her mom will come in and pay after the routine checkup was done, all while she made the next appointment. Now, this patient was about a middle-aged adult, but it was very clear that she was dependent on her mom because of some mental handicaps. She is super sweet, and I told her that she needed to pay before we see her because it was our policy. And honestly, I didn't think she or her mom would run off with the money, but the boss wasn't there, and I didn't want to take any risks. So I asked her to see if her mom would have any problem coming in now to pay. When she came back and repeated that her mom usually comes in to pay when she's done, I assumed that if her mother had any issue with walking or anything physical, the patient would typically say so. So I asked one more time, "Are you sure?" And I see that she's getting nervous, and so she goes out again to ask. I felt bad putting the pressure on her to go and get her mom, but most of our patients are really understanding, so I figured her mom would just pay this time and ask the doctor about it during the visit. This old white lady comes in, walks straight up to the desk, and immediately starts going off on me. She tells me about how she's been coming here since I was born, and she has never had to pay prior to the treatment. I was very nervous because I haven't had anyone yell at me like that before, but I wanted to be nice, and I felt really bad because I'm a pushover just like my mom, but I have the benefit of learning from her mistakes. I tried telling her that we were implementing a new policy, and I unfortunately could not waive it for her because the boss is on vacation, but this entitled parent would not let me have a word in. So I just waited patiently and listened to her while our 2 back office assistants stood there behind me, clearly visible to all parties. Honestly, I was trying really hard to come up with a workable compromise for her while she was yelling at me, but it was at that moment that this entitled Karen chose to use the wrong ammunition. She said she knew the boss very well, and the boss wouldn't like me treating her this way. I dropped about 90% of my sympathy for her after she said that, but I tried to be patient and understanding. Then she threatened to go somewhere else, and at that moment, the last 10% of sympathy faded with her loyalty. I looked her dead in the eye, folded my hands on the desk in front of me, and gently but firmly said, "Okay." The silence was long and deafening. The look on her face was priceless. I never broke eye contact, but I broke the silence and kindly informed her that I am in fact the boss's daughter, so she needs to pay beforehand today, and she is free to take it up with my mom when she returns. I also purposefully called her my mom to drive the point home, because normally I would refer to her by the title of office manager, because I try to make sure that no one could tell that I'm her daughter. I just want to be professional. She went from a hostile Karen to a kind old grandma in about 30 seconds. And yeah, she paid for our service beforehand. After that encounter, I was shaking. I was shaking with fear, pride, confidence, anger. She actually tried to pull the loyalty card. But any patient who actually has enough treatment at our office to make a difference if they leave would know me personally and would recognize me at the front desk. I told my mom about about it when she got back the other day, and she just laughed and said I did a good job because apparently this entitled Karen has never even been a patient herself. We make virtually no money off of her specifically. It's been a week and she hasn't called back about it, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. People like that who act so entitled and try and pull the loyalty card are absolutely ridiculous. Who in their right mind would act like that? Here's the thing, if a doctor's office has a specific policy, guess what? You gotta play by those rules. You don't get to decide when and how you pay for your treatments. The people who decide that are the office manager and the staff, and you gotta abide by it or you can get rescheduled. It's unfair to treat the staff so poorly and then to go back to the doctor and try and act like a saint. It's really disgusting and honestly very disturbing. So good for this lady for standing up for herself and laying down the law, especially with your mom being the office manager. That is just great. I honestly wish I could have been there to watch this lady dissolve into that kind old grandma, and we all know that's just a facade to try and get what they want. So good for you, and I'm super glad you put that Karen in her place. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for getting upset at my roommates over money? Up until this point, I was living with my maternal grandparents since Halloween of 2018 and never lived on my own due to financial issues, as well as being kicked out of my mom's house 5 months after turning 18. My job was an hour drive away, and I was getting really sick of the drive and having such a long drive back in the morning after dealing with customers all night. I work in a casino, by the way. It was a challenge for me to decide because during lockdown, I was dealing with my own mental health after the death of my best and only friend. This is someone I was best friends with in high school, and it was all due to COVID. Having died 3 days after Christmas of 2020, I was a mess and fell into a deep depression, and I also had very bad social anxiety, not even able to go to the grocery store without having a panic attack. It took me a long time and a lot of therapy before I found a job. When I started the job in December of 2021, I was extremely nervous and quiet. I kept to myself and did my daily duties and then just went home. After 3 months, I made my first friend. Her name is Maria, and she would soon become one of my roommates that I live with as well. She had helped me with coming out at work and becoming my first friend after my best friend had passed away, and that's when we met our other friend by the name of May. She had just moved back to the States from Guam and moved in with her aunt. Her aunt didn't like that she was sleeping during the day, even though she worked all night, so she gave her 1 month to find a new place. When we went apartment hunting, Maria was having her own issues with her current roommate and didn't feel comfortable staying there with her 2 kids, and asked if we could find a place for all of us. We found a place and moved in together. May had no money after everything with the apartment was set, and asked if I would cover her part of the house supplies, her groceries, and shared items until she gets paid. We split everything 3 ways to make it easier. I had a high credit limit on my credit card from paying my bills on time for a few years. I agreed with the expectation that for each check, she would give me some form of payment to the credit card of what she owed. She agreed, and after buying stuff for the apartment plus personal items for her room, it was about $550 that she owed me. She had an unexpected trip to Mississippi to visit her boyfriend, who was stationed there, and when she came back, money was tight for her again. So I told her she could pay me back on her next check, not knowing, of course, that she asked my other roommate to co-sign with her to get a loan for $4,000. She bought a car for $2,000, as well as clothing, bedroom supplies, a brand new bed, as well as buying takeout as well as going out. I only received $138 after I asked her if she was going to add to the credit card. 6 weeks have passed and it's payday. I asked her if she was going to add anything to the credit card again, and she said sure, but asked when the monthly credit card bill was due. I said in 3 days, and she kind of brushed me off. We had planned to meet for lunch with some coworkers I hadn't hung out with outside of work. Since it was Friday, work is extremely busy, and we agreed to just go for lunch, come back, and take a nap before work that night. When we get to the restaurant, she acts like a different person being around these people, like she's trying to fit in really badly. They even make fun of other coworkers' appearances and ask that May call out so they can go drinking. We have 3 call-outs already that night, including May, and it was just going to be Maria and I working on a busy Friday night. Instead of going to work and earning money and tips for the night, she calls out, leaving Maria and I to work and her evading having to pay for the money she owes me. I got mad because we have a deal and she hasn't paid me anything in 6 weeks, but will then instead go spending money left and right before anything else. I tried to keep to myself because when I get mad, I say things I either don't mean or later regret. So I kept kept quiet and I just ignored her. Now, my roommate May is mad because I'm upset, and Maria saying I'm being annoying and just pissing her off with my attitude. They're making me feel excluded from conversations, and when I leave the room, they laugh like they're trying to make me jealous. I feel like I should just suck it up and wait for her to pay it back in her own time, but some of my other coworkers say I'm not in the wrong and I should get my money sooner. So what do I do? Am I the jerk? I don't think you're the jerk in this situation. I think your crappy roommate is definitely the jerk. It's been 6 weeks and they still haven't paid you back. It's not like that's a bunch of money. Like, you could easily skim that off of any normal average paycheck and pay you back easily. They're playing you pretty well, and the fact that they've only paid you $138 is more than enough reason for you to realize, hey, I will never loan them any money ever again, because you'll never see it. That remaining $412 is something that you absolutely are entitled to, especially when it goes towards your credit card. Like, yeah, it sounds like you're going to pay it off no matter what, but the fact that your roommate has not given you that money to take care of it is really, really terrible. So no, in this situation, you are most definitely 100% not the jerk. I am going on a group trip without my girlfriend, and she wants to be invited to come along too. This trip is a group trip with some online friends, 3 females and 5 males, all ranging from 20 to 27 years old. These are friends with whom I have met very infrequently and haven't kept in touch with too much, but still I hold them to a very high regard in terms of being a good friend. My girlfriend is worried about something occurring between me and these friends and said the solution is to invite her. Unfortunately, this trip for me feels very much like a boys' trip with just this group of friends. She said if it was a boys' trip, then it would be okay, but since there's women coming along that she doesn't know, she doesn't feel comfortable with any of it. I also have not had too much contact with this group, so this is honestly like a reconnection with them. I should also note that no external significant others are coming. 2 of the people who are already in the group recently started dating. I'm willing to invite my girlfriend to events including this group afterwards, but I'm not sure if I'm able to invite her this time, as it is a headache to reorganize the cost, and also it is just an extended catch-up with this specific group. I will ask, but if they deny, she will get mad. What should I do in regards to speaking to her or the group? I really don't see the issue here. I think the original poster is just being a little bit silly. Like, it's not that hard to go up to a group of friends who you yourself said you hold in high regard and ask them like, hey, you guys want to meet my girlfriend? She's great. I'm going to bring her along. And then that's that. Like, is there any reason why she shouldn't trust you? Like, it just seems really silly for me that you can't just ask your friends, hey, can my girlfriend come along too? She really wants to meet you. And you can just take it from that angle itself. You can make up the excuse that, hey, my girlfriend wants to meet everybody. She's heard a lot about you guys, and so she would love to come along with this and be involved. I think you guys will love her. And then that's that. I think any reasonable friend group would be like, yeah, sure, bring her along. If they say no, she can't come along, then that's really a red flag in my opinion. Like, why would they not want you to bring along your significant other? I totally understand that nobody else is doing that, but I don't see any legitimate reasons why she couldn't come along for this, aside from maybe the costs or just the logistics of all of it, which is understandable, but also you can work around that and figure it out. On the other side of this, the way your girlfriend is acting is really suspicious. Like, just because there are girls involved on this trip doesn't mean something is going to happen, and not initially and innately trusting your boyfriend that he's going to be loyal to you is really toxic in my opinion, and that's a really big red flag. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to trust him and say, yeah, he's not going to cheat on me, especially when there's been no real instance of him ever going behind your back or cheating or lying or doing anything. And as far as we've been told, this guy's loyal to his girlfriend just like you would with any other relationship. And no, anxiety is not a good excuse for you to say, oh, you're going to cheat on me. That's just weird and that's really toxic. So I can kind of see both sides of this, to be honest. But what would you do? Leave a comment down below. If you were in either one of these people's situations, how would you handle this? Would you be cool with your boyfriend going on this trip? Or would you yourself want to be involved and go along with it? Do you think this group of friends would be okay with a girlfriend tagging along? Or do you think this would be some kind of deal breaker? Leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you have to say. My significant other is upset that Father's Day did not go as planned. To preface, my significant other and I have been together for 3 years. We live together along with his son. So I had planned to take my significant other and his son to a restaurant that he had been talking about for months. So we made the drive and the place was closed on Father's Day. I did not have a backup plan, and my significant other offered no solutions, which I guess if we're looking at the logistics of this is totally my fault. We went back home and I prepared dinner for my significant other, my dad, and my sister. After dinner, we all went out for dessert. Everything was fine. That is until this morning when he went went off on me. He was upset that we didn't spend any time together. He was upset that my sister and dad joined us for dessert, and he was also upset that my sister and I have family vacation planned for later this summer. For reference, this all got brought up during dinner, my family and her family, and we've been doing this for years. He says I don't prioritize him or his needs, and that I don't open up as much as he does. I told him I was sorry that Father's Day didn't go as planned, but I had no control over the restaurant. I would have happily have taken him there. I also told him that I had a trip planned for us a few weeks earlier. However, I am currently the only one working, so splurging on restaurants and souvenirs wasn't an option for this trip, to which he said he would rather not go because he doesn't want to go on vacation and eat ham sandwiches the whole time, or to have to tell his kid that they can't get souvenirs. I also told him that I've tried over and over to get him to plan things with me, but he says his plate is always full and he doesn't like to plan things. Eventually, the argument got really ugly, and he brought up issues we've had in the past. For example, 2 years ago, I begged him to take me on a trip somewhere. He declined because of his depression, and ultimately snapped and told me to plan a trip with my friends, and so I did. He also brought up how I take trips without him, and that I just go off with my friends and family, and that it isn't fair that he gets left behind, and that apparently while I go out, I'm supposedly living my best life. I'm just frustrated. I hate to throw 3 years down the drain, but this situation isn't improving. It doesn't seem fair that he is guilt-tripping me with my previous travels, when I have tried and then tried again to get him to plan something, anything with me. It feels like anything I do is a problem for him, and I don't understand why. What should I do? This is really unfair the way your significant other is treating you, because it sounds like he's not happy with anything that you're doing, and that no matter what you do, it's never good enough. The original poster goes on to explain that for Father's Day, she did get him a lot of gifts, and that it's just unfortunate that the restaurant was closed, like it's not her fault. So in my opinion, this argument of being upset because he had to share Father's Day with other family members just seems really weird. Like, why would you not want your significant other's father with you on Father's Day? And it also seems like a lot of his arguments are just really petty and stupid. And if you really take a step back, it's not like this is a birthday or like some major holiday. It's Father's Day. Like, come on. Does it have to be absolutely perfect? And I bet you, even if that restaurant was open, it probably wouldn't have been enough. So to be honest, if you're looking for it, you are not to blame in this situation. This guy brings up past issues, and it sounds like he's very insecure with the fact that you're enjoying life. And this also does not ignore the fact that you've tried to involve him in almost everything you've done. You've even said, hey, let's go on a trip somewhere together, let's plan something. But he refuses to do anything. So I would not blame yourself for anything that's going on, because honestly, based on what you've explained, the way that things are going and the fact that you're fighting so much really stems from this guy. Should I share a tip from a customer who went out of their way to give it to me personally? With 20 years experience and having been trained in fine dining, I was quite shocked by what I experienced yesterday at my new workplace. It is a private members club with less than 500 members, so most people are well known and they know the staff. We had lunch bookings between 12 o'clock and 2 p.m., with most arriving at around 1 o'clock p.m., in total about 49 people, with half of them being tables of 6 and above. It should not be too difficult. As the new person, I was assigned to take food out. Our supervisor was taking orders, a long-standing colleague was supposed to seat and welcome, and I believe brought drinks from the staff bar to the tables. I did not witness much of what they did, but I did notice that service broke down with people waiting a long time to have plates cleared, as well as orders for dessert and more drinks taken. Yes, we were short-staffed, but the staff there was also not properly trained. The young lad working the bar carried glasses with drinks to the table and without a tray, which is just unexcusable, as well as touching the glass right on the rim. That was one of the first points of my training, and there were other issues as well. The dessert cutlery was not pulled down. The salt and pepper had not been removed after their main course, and empty glasses were not being taken off the table. Eventually, a table of 3 stopped me in the corridor after they moved from the table to the lounge for coffee to order, which I was able to fulfill promptly. As they went to the reception desk to pay, the gentleman approached me in the corridor and pressed a note into my hand. I debated with myself to put it into the tip jar, but I felt he meant to give it to me only, so I kept it, and I felt I deserved it overall. Should I have put this in the group tip jar, or am I good to just take it myself? What should I do? I think that customer gave it to you specifically, so personally, I don't think it's right to put it in some kind of community tip jar, especially if the rest of the staff, like you're describing, is not as well trained as you are. That tip is for you specifically. I know for myself, when I have a server who does a really good job, if I want to make sure that they receive a tip, I give them cash in hand. Sometimes the tips you get off of credit cards go to like a group thing and everyone gets paid out equally, which I think is ridiculous. So whenever I go out to eat personally, I bring cash with me just for that occasion. So no, don't give that away to your other coworkers who clearly were not working as hard as you were. You knew how best to help the customers that were around you, and that tip absolutely belongs to you. An entitled Karen tries to stop paramedics from getting patients into the hospital and demands to be seen first. The situation got so bad that the police had to get involved. So a few days ago, around 5 o'clock in the evening, we got a call about a code black that was announced in the hospital where I work. For those of you who don't know what a code black means, it basically means that people got hurt on a very large scale and that these patients were being sent our way. A code black might mean something different at different hospitals, but that's how we have it labeled. Apparently, 2 buses had collided with each other and some patients were mildly hurt, while some also had some serious injuries. And with all of that in mind, here comes the entitled Karen with her stupid gremlin child. She had brought her son into the emergency room because her son was having minor stomach aches and was refusing to eat food. I personally went to her and told her that a large number of patients are coming here as they have trauma and that we're going to be seeing them first so that we can ensure that this possibly fatal incident doesn't cause anybody to pass away. So we asked her to either wait in the hall or to go to the Department of Medicine and someone would attend to them there. With that in mind, this entitled Karen starts to make a fuss about how we are refusing to do our duty and how we are just there to trouble the patients. At the same time of this entitled Karen saying this, the first 2 ambulances have arrived and both the patients were injured badly. On seeing that, the security guards had to clear the entrance to the emergency room and asked her to move aside. When she refused to do so, he called a female guard and they pushed them aside. She actually started to scream like a banshee that we had apparently assaulted her as well as her gremlin child, and that now she is going to call the police and file charges against her for harassment. We ignored her shouting and screaming, and we took the patients inside and gave their wounds enough support to stop any kind of tragedy from happening. We were also prepping these patients so that they could be taken into surgery for the injuries that they had occurred. She came back into the ER with her stupid child, and of course, we were there. And let's just say that because these patients were injured, things were not as tidy on the ground as you would expect, if you know what I mean. And because things were so urgent and things weren't quite cleaned up like they would have been right away, this entitled Karen started to shout at us, saying that we are going to give them infections and make them sick because of how things look currently. We again had to ask the guards to escort her out of the building as the ambulances with less injured patients had to start coming in. We were tending to those patients when she tried to stop the entry of a patient who was not very injured but needed full examination. She said that this patient is fine and her precious baby needs treatment first. Remember, we had already told her to go to the other department, but she didn't want to walk the small distance to go over there and have her precious little child evaluated and treated. This time, she actually did call the police and tried to pester us again. One of my fellow doctors intervened and told the police exactly what's going on, telling them the entire scenario. They already knew that we were treating patients and that apparently the woman had told them that we were refusing to see any patients and that we were making them wait outside. After hearing just about enough, the policemen took this lady outside and gave her a nice earful, as well as delivering some strong words, as well as a hefty fine. This lady was banned from the hospital for 2 weeks. Later, we did treat her son, and it all turned out to be a sham. This kid didn't even have any stomach issues. The child was in fact just making a big fuss because he didn't get the food that he wanted that night for dinner. On the brighter side, all of the patients that had to come into the hospital were all completely treated, and today was the last day that we saw any of the patients involved in that accident. They are doing perfectly fine. Some people really have the audacity to be such idiots in scenarios of emergency for nothing but attention and drama. I'm honestly surprised that lady didn't go to jail for trying to obstruct people from getting into the hospital who actually had some kind of issues going on. I've heard and seen Karens be absolutely ridiculous in situations where it's like, oh man, you're not getting the sale that you wanted that was advertised in the newspaper, or oh no, you treated my kid badly at the restaurant we're going to. But in a moment of an emergency, it's really baffling to me that someone would try and act this entitled. Like, can't this lady see that there's somebody that might pass away because of the actions that they're taking? This lady really tried to pull the whole, I'm gonna call the police on you, as if that's gonna solve anything. And the worst part about it is, this kid was not even sick. He was just being a spoiled little brat. I wonder where he learned that behavior from. They could have gone down to another department and stopped bothering the emergency room and actually gotten some treatment that could have helped them. It's just ridiculous that they acted this way, and I genuinely cannot believe that they didn't get arrested. In my opinion, if you obstruct an ambulance or any kind of patients who are in dire need from getting into a hospital, you deserve some jail time, in my opinion. But that's just me. What would you do if you were in this situation? If you were hypothetically a doctor on call or someone in the emergency room watching this go down, how would you react? Because I can tell you, I would not have been very kind if I saw this happening. Leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear it. I just found out that the guy I've been seeing used to sleep with my close friend, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. So recently, I've been seeing this new guy for the past 5 months, and everything was going great. We've been doing long distance as he had a job in another state. However, he will be back home in about 2 months. He's honestly really sweet. He goes above and beyond for me, and we share a lot of the same values. However, I found out from a friend of mine that he used to sleep with his best female friend quite regularly, who is also a long-term good friend of mine. When I asked him about this, he said it was true and that he was going to bring it up once he got home. And he didn't bring it up last time he was here, and he didn't want to ruin the time we were spending together. He was willing to answer any questions I wanted and to give me space to wrap my head around the whole thing. However, I can't help but just be super turned off since finding out about this. I've had a lot of bad history with infidelity in past relationships, so I might have some trust issues. However, it's not even jealousy at this point. The two of them are really, really close, which I feel could bring up problems in the future. And I don't want to be that person saying they can't be friends. Their thing together stopped about a month before he met me, and they've maintained this very close friendship ever since. I'm just super turned off over it, which is a shame as he is already a great guy, and everyone has a past before they meet someone, right? Is this immaturity? Do I need time to process this and to wrap my head around this, and then I'll be okay with it? Or is this a deal breaker? Has anyone else ever been through something similar? And how did it turn out for you? What should I do? I can understand where you're coming from, but I also don't see this as a deal breaker in my opinion. If I was with a woman and she was with one of my best friends a month ago, I personally would not find any conflict with this as long as there's no romantic feelings between either of them anymore. If there's any kind of feelings or any kind of flirting or anything along those lines, that would be a big red flag for me. If I'm going to consider them my girlfriend, then they need to act like my girlfriend, not the flirty ex-girlfriend of some other guy, especially if that other guy was a good friend of mine. But in that same vein of thought, I completely understand where you're coming from. He was with your best friend. I mean, you can't ignore that. So I totally understand where you're coming from, where you feel a little bit jealous, as well as a little bit jaded by the whole situation in general. That honestly makes sense. But I don't think you should call off this relationship just because of somebody's past. If he hits all the marks and he's being loyal to you and he loves you and he cares about you, in my opinion, I don't think you should just get rid of him. I think maybe giving this some time and having some time to process it and accept that, hey, he's been with other people before will really help you go a long way with this relationship in general. Is me threatening to break up with my boyfriend manipulation? So my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 months. Our first months together were bliss because we live very close by and we both had minimal responsibility at the time, so we spent every waking moment together. But now we are kind of long distance. We live about an hour apart, and he's always busy with school and family, so I only end up seeing him 1 to 3 times a month. When our 6-month mark was coming up a couple of weeks ago, I felt like we didn't really have much of a relationship to celebrate because I hardly saw him, and it felt like not much effort was being put in on his end. He was treating our relationship as it was in the first month when we quite literally were together 24/7, but being 60 miles away and him being mostly busy most of the time definitely makes things hard. Anytime I would mention him coming to see me, he would complain about gas prices and that the trip itself would take an entire tank of gas. I always drive to see him whenever I get the chance. Even though gas is so expensive, I don't care about the gas prices and will just sacrifice me eating out or something like that to pay for the gas. I never complain about it because I genuinely want to see him. Even when he comes and sees me, he sends me a picture of how much gas costs with a crying emoji. Like, yeah, that makes me feel really great, but I was driving to see him way more than he was, and it just didn't feel like the effort was mutual. He also says he appreciates me and that he will do anything for me, as well as wanting me to be in his life long term, but I don't know, it just never feels that way. Since I met him, he hasn't given me flowers, and he just doesn't do the little things that I enjoy. And I have told him I've communicated what I want, and he just says, well, I was planning on doing that, but never actually does it. I understand he's busy, and I understand he's still in school, whereas I have already graduated, so he doesn't make as much as I do, and he helps his family with his money. So I genuinely understand that he has other responsibilities and priorities, but it was starting to feel like he was just expecting me to stay by his side without any effort. I know who I am and what I deserve, and I kinda had a reality check with myself when 6 months was coming up, and I was like, yeah, I don't deserve this. This has kind of been an ongoing conversation, but anytime I say something about it, he apologizes and says something along the lines of, I appreciate you and just bear with me until I finish school. And that's about it. When 6 months was approaching, I was hardly sleeping, and I just wasn't at peace with where our relationship was. So I literally drove to him at 11 o'clock at night because having this conversation over FaceTime and hearing him say, I appreciate you, just bear with me, was really getting old. Why do we need to wait for him to finish school to have a good relationship? Why not do what we can now to build a solid foundation if we really are in this for the long run? Anyways, he recognized and understood that ever since we moved away from each other and he started his new semester, as well as a new job, he hasn't been putting in a lot of effort. And he apologized and said he didn't realize how much this was actually bothering me. In this conversation, I told him I truly do want to be with him, but the way he's treating our relationship makes me question a lot of things. And well, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I told him if you were anybody else, I would have broken up with you by now. I would have broken up with him that night, but I really do care about him, unlike anybody I've ever met, and I want to give him the chance. I told him if our relationship is the same by our 1 year mark, then I don't think I'll stay, and I stand by that. Ultimately, we worked things out. On our 6-month day, which was a couple's day after that conversation, he drove to me with a big bouquet of roses, with the number 6 written in different colored roses, as well as a huge stuffed bear, some balloons, and some sentimental gifts. Overall, this has really just been bothering me. But was me saying I'll break up with him manipulation? I read up a lot on domestic abuse, as well as emotional and verbal and physical abuse, partner manipulation, you name it. So I can be educated on that, and I do all that I can to have a healthy relationship. My intentions with him were to communicate to him that even though I love him and want to be with him, I am not scared to break up with him. I love myself too much to have my peace and sleep interrupted by a man when I could just be single and peaceful. I'm not sure what to do, and I really hope I didn't make a mistake here. I don't totally see it as manipulation. I think it would be more manipulation if you used it as a tactic to get what you want. Like if you were using the fact that you're going to break up with him as some kind of weapon to get him to do what you want, then yeah, in my opinion, that's 100% manipulation. But in this instance, it seems like you were just super honest with your boyfriend. You told him straight up, hey, I don't like where we're going. I feel like you're not putting in the effort, and I really don't see myself having a future with you. I just don't see that kind of honest conversation as a form of manipulation. It sounds like you're trying to do everything right. You're communicating with your boyfriend. You're trying to have a solid relationship, even though you live about an hour apart, and he's just not stepping up to the plate. But even better than that, it looks like you both worked it out, and that conversation made a big impact on him. I don't think it was a bad thing for you to speak honestly and openly with your boyfriend and explain to him like, hey, we need to fix this. Because it worked. You fixed the situation, and it looks like you guys are on a good path now. So in my opinion, I don't see this as manipulation. I don't think you had any ill intent in mind. I think honestly you just wanted what was best for you as well as your relationship as a whole. And the fact that this all worked out and that things are going well right now is more than enough evidence for you to hold on to that you did the right thing and you're both working towards a common goal, which is exactly what you want in a healthy relationship. My girlfriend has gone overboard with all of these rules for our home, and it is absolutely driving me crazy. My girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years. She is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I plan on marrying her. Lately, however, her rules, I'll call them rules, but they are more like obsessions, are driving me crazy. I know she is meticulous, and I know she is very particular, and I know she's a perfectionist, but I'm honestly starting to think that she has some kind of underlying OCD or something. Our house always has to be pristine and everything has to be in its right place. But when I get off from work, I just want to relax and not care about the fact that I hung up my jacket on the wrong hook. If I try to help her with laundry, she gets frustrated because I hang up the wrong things at the wrong places. Apparently, shirts shirts go in a certain place on the laundry line, and it's a disaster if they're too close to the socks. I'm not allowed barefoot outside. Otherwise, I have to wash my feet before I can get back into the house. I'm allowed to put my feet on the couch if I have socks or slippers on, but those same socks and slippers are not allowed on the bed. Sometimes I just want to get into bed without having to put on clean socks. If a pillow so much as touches the floor, it has to be washed. But then, if the designated pillowcase for that particular set of sheets doesn't match, well, then the whole bed has to be stripped and changed. All our sheets and pillowcases are white and look exactly the same. She reminds me to pack my lunch for work every morning, which is nice and all, but she does it 4 times in a row. She tells me every morning and every night to wash and moisturize my face multiple times, and makes me promise that I will remember to do it only because I passed out on the couch and forgot one time. I've told her that it bothers me when she does this. She does tell me that she can't help it because it just builds and builds in her mind over and over if she doesn't say anything. I'm not even allowed to say goodbye to her in the mornings. I can only say see you later because goodbye apparently could curse one of us. I'm also not allowed to say drive safe. She is currently studying for her board exams, and she's already told me that I'm not allowed to say good luck because I will jinx her. She is extremely intelligent and graduated at the top of her class last year. I told her mom about how well she did and how proud I was of her. Later that night, she was bawling her eyes out. When I asked her what was wrong, she said that she knew I didn't mean anything by it, but if people are aware of how well she did, it suddenly means that she will do poorly on her board exams. Apparently, her mother told her whole family, who then called to congratulate her, and I felt like the worst person in the world. I feel like things are just getting worse too. For example, one of the cloths that we used to clean the house was missing. We had a huge argument about it because she was tearing down the whole house trying to find it. I helped her look for it, but gave up after 5 minutes because it was after work and I was so tired. She got angry at me and accused me of not caring about our things. I told her that I do care about our things, but this is just a piece of cloth and we can buy another one. It's just not worth the effort for me. She was freaking out, saying that it was difficult to find that particular type of cloth in the color that it was, and that otherwise it wouldn't match the others that we already had. I then said that it doesn't matter what color the cloths are, just that we had them, which made her really upset. It's been almost a month and we haven't replaced the cloth yet because we can't find one of the very specific colors that she wants. The worst thing is that I really think it affects her health. We both love to cook and often do it together. We usually spend time together drawing up a meal plan for the week, but her incessant rules has started to make the whole process unbearable. Meal planning now takes hours. Every dish that we make has to have enough vegetables. Fine, that's great, but the vegetables have to be the right vegetables for the dish. Some things can't be eaten together because they don't fit according to her. If a meal doesn't have enough of the right vegetables, she gets incredibly anxious to the point that she's nauseated and then she just won't eat. She also has this thing where food can't be wasted, and then I tell her it's fine, we can just have it for leftovers for lunch, but obviously lunch is also then planned out, so she gets even more stressed out and eats a small plate of vegetables while I myself make food. It's stuff like this that goes on and on and on. I know she has struggled with depression in the past and that she's on antidepressants, but this just feels like it's something more. No matter what I do to reassure her, I just feel like I'm making things worse. I've told her that she needs to go see a therapist, but she told me she feels ashamed of these things and doesn't want to waste the money on a therapist. I just don't know what to do anymore. What should I do? She definitely needs to be evaluated to see if she has OCD, because from my own experience with other family members who do have OCD, this definitely fits the bill. I mean, the way that she's acting is not normal. I think anybody can really see that. She doesn't even allow you to lay in your bed without socks on. I mean, that's just weird to me. That is not normal behavior. There's some kind of anxiety issues or OCD issues going on, but don't take my word for it. Go to a therapist and get it verified. It is not a waste of money to get help with your mental health. That's exactly what psychologists and psychiatrists are there to do. They are there to help with your mental health. So go take advantage of it. I would personally go research somebody who can help out with this specific situation. Maybe even trying to find someone who specializes in OCD. They might know exactly what to do. At the end of the day though, you can't make her go to therapy. Like if someone does not want to go to therapy, they're definitely just not going to do it. So the best that you really can do is try to be encouraging and help her as best you can, because this is your future wife that you're talking about. And if you really love her and if you can really stand all these weird rules, then the best thing you could do is try might stand by her in this really weird and kind of awkward situation in her life, because I'm sure that she would do the same for you, no matter what's going on. Today, I messed up by rushing my job and paying someone 215 more hours of overtime than I should have. It was an absolute disaster. I work in accounts, and one of the things we regularly do is pay people for overtime. The manager sends us a form, we plug the numbers in, they get the cash. In the pay system we use, you put in a 3-digit numerical code for the type of overtime you want to pay, then the number of hours, and let the system work out the rest. We are supposed to check the final payment screen to make sure everything adds up correctly, but if we are in a rush, we often leave that step out to save some time. I mean, come on, what's the worst that could happen? One day, I'm working through a mountain of requests, and I haven't slept terribly well. I open an email for 3 hours of overtime. I plug in the proper code and put in 3 hours of overtime, and move on without checking as it's almost payday and tasks are coming thick and fast. That was a couple of weeks ago. Today, I get a call from a manager who was doing an audit asking why their unit's overtime bill was so large last pay. I look into it and I find it's all coming from one employee. I open their pay record, preparing explicitives about whichever idiot on my team entered the data badly, only to see my name next to the entry, which has the code 215, you know, the one I put in earlier, under the hours section. In my sleepy overconfidence, I had entered the code in both boxes and accidentally paid someone 215 hours of overtime instead of 3. The total cost for that mess up? A little bit over $15,000. And this was for someone who was normally paid about $900 a week after taxes. Normally, we have a couple of fail-safes. I should have checked myself, and one of the IT guys usually scans for any strange figures, but he was off sick that day, and I was, well, messing up. So now it's a mess, and we have to try and figure out how to get all that cash back. Yeah, that's a big mess up on your end, but somebody definitely got a good payday out of it. I'm not sure if they're able to keep that money. It'd be really funny if they could, but I highly doubt if that money is still available. If I was an employee and I had gotten a $15,000 raise suddenly, you better believe I would have spent that already. No, all jokes aside, hopefully this all works out, and hopefully nobody loses their job over this, because this is definitely losing your job kind of territory, and I would hate to see that happen. An entitled Karen demands that I drive her everywhere every day all the time, and after being taken advantage of by this parasite, I eventually put my foot down and say no more. And once I say that, she absolutely loses it. I haven't spoken to my neighbor for nearly 3 years after I began refusing to be her taxi driver. We had a decent relationship for some time. We were always cordial. My neighbor doesn't drive, and at the time I was a stay-at-home mom with a toddler, as well as 2 kids in school. She first began by coming by one afternoon, asking if I could take her and her kids to the dentist. Okay, sure, it's not too far. Then another time, her child needed to be seen at an urgent care, and she needed me to take them, but this is when issues first began. That particular day, I had a contractor at the house and needed to finish with this. She told me I needed to hurry. I told her that it wouldn't take long, but if this is actually an emergency, then she needs to call emergency services or an Uber. She said it would wait. So my contractor is done and I go and pick them back up. Well, this goes on off and on for a while. Frankly, it's a little frustrating, but I'm trying to be neighborly, but then she began flipping a little. One day I get a text message asking if I've left to take my kids to school, and I had. She said her kids overslept and she wanted me to drop them off for her. Our kids go to different schools, by the way. I say yes, but she needs to come too because I won't sign them in. She agreed, and overall, I spent an extra 40 minutes out of my morning with my toddler who doesn't like being in the car. But okay, again, being neighborly. And that's when I start to notice a pattern. Her kids keep oversleeping and she keeps knocking on my door or texting. I often try to run errands after I drop my kids off from school, so I'm usually out doing things. So when I get a text saying, "Where are you? Will you be back from taking your kids to school soon? I need a ride." I just tell them, no, I won't be home. And then she asks if my husband can do it since he works from home. No, he's working. She had the audacity to get snippy and then say that she would have to call them out of school again and that they've missed too much. I just ignore that and went about my errands. I get another text message asking where I am and when I'll be home. I tell them that I'm the next city over and that I have no idea when I'll be back, telling her that she needs to call an Uber. She claims Uber is unsafe and that she'll get hurt. Then she says that she will get a ride to her apartment in that same city and that I can wait for her to be done and to take her home. I ignore her after that. Next week, I'm at another doctor's office far from from home. Again, I get a text. This time she says, "Where are you? You're not home again, and your husband won't answer the door. We need a ride to the dentist in 30 minutes, or I will have to cancel the visit. Can you hurry home?" At this point, I am beyond tired of being questioned about my whereabouts. My husband doesn't even do that, so I just ignore her. We finish the visit, and I take my kids to get treats. Then a text message pops up and says, "Are you coming? I need you to hurry." Again, I ignore it, and at this point, I'm just over all of this. That's when she texts me back and says, "Never mind, we missed it." The final straw was 2 weeks later. She meets me outside while I'm doing yard work. She said that she got her kids signed up for an orthodontist, and that now she needs me to start driving them to their monthly appointments, and that she will pay for gas in the process. But here's the kicker. The orthodontist is 40 minutes away on a bad part of town, and considering that the appointment will take up to an hour, as well as another 40 minutes back, I'm going to be doing this every month for roughly 2 years. She said I could just wait with my toddler nearby, or I could go shopping while they do this. And that's when I told her flat out no. I told her that I don't like being far from the kids while they're in school in case I've got to get them, and my toddler will be miserable, and that's just too far. I asked her why she would book an orthodontist that far away when she doesn't even drive, and she said because it was cheaper. She kept arguing, but I stayed firm in my no. She was very frustrated with me, and had been frustrated as I hadn't been around more lately to help out. My husband is mad at this point and had told me to stop completely because she's using me and he doesn't like that. And you know what? He was right. I told her I won't change my mind. She grew very cold towards me. She ended up finding another poor unfortunate soul to start giving her a ride. But then 1 month later, her ride bailed on her, and she came again and asked me if I would take her again. But still the answer was no. And as I explained it last time, that's not changing. She was furious and legitimately never spoke to me again. And you can bet I will never reach out to this lady for anything ever again. Talk about making the right decision. This lady was 100% using you. Imagine being so selfish that you harass your neighbor for a ride anytime you need to get things done. I have run into people like this who just take advantage of your kindness, all for the sake of them getting stuff done. There's never a thank you. They never pay you back. They never decide to help you out in return. The kindness is not reciprocated, and it is absolutely miserable dealing with these people because I don't think they actually care. And the person in this story absolutely fits the freaking bill. They took advantage of your kindness for so long. You have way more patience than I do because there's no way I would have put up with that. People like this absolutely make me sick. Like, if this lady really has this many reasons to go out driving, especially 40 minutes away, then they need to get their life together and learn to drive. Because honestly, this is not a you problem. This is definitely a they problem. They didn't take the time to either have their license, or they obviously don't have their life together enough to be able to have a license and drive. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I'm so glad you cut this parasite out of your life. Because you, your husband, and your toddler do not need to deal with that. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for cutting contact with my family after they turned my mother's life as well as mine into a living nightmare? I'm a 22-year-old female, and it's been 7 years, and I still haven't talked to an entire side of my family. Here's the thing. My grandmother is the kind of woman that privileges one kid above the other. She always gave more to my uncle than to my mother, to the point that my uncle turned into a complete spoiled brat. He's the type of guy that would cut off contact with you for 3 years without any news, all because he didn't go to his son's birthday party, even though you had a good reason not to go. Yeah, this guy's a winner. As for my grandmother, she always treated my mother as an ungrateful child, and she was always taking her anger out on my mother. She also didn't hesitate to tell her she was an unwanted child. When my mother was 5 years old, my grandmother told her the only reason why she was born was because her husband wanted a daughter. As she grew up, my mother started to rebel, and even decided to cut contact with her mother after my grandfather's passing. But then she became pregnant with my older sister, and felt that she was being unfair. One of my grandfathers passed away at an early age, and the other one left without a trace, so she wanted us to at least have both of our grandmothers. It went well eventually until my mother became pregnant with me. I was born the same day as my grandfather's death. Because of this, my grandmother hates me and wanted to show it to me. She was always acting nice around me, but she was always strict with me, to the point that when my sister and I came back from a trip we did, I ran to my mother while crying as if I just saw the devil himself. That's how bad she was when I was on this trip. She was also neglectful towards me when she was helping my mother babysitting my sister and I. And I don't mean it in an emotional way. One day she made me swim in nothing but underwear under a blazing sun, although my mother packed a swimsuit for me. I ended up being burned very badly on my whole body. Or she would let some strangers look after me in a foreign country while we were on a trip. Another thing that she does is that she never wants to celebrate my birthday on the actual day itself. Eventually, I would understand why this state affected my grandmother so much, and how my grandfather's loss was so devastating to her. But she got rid of every single one of his belongings. She went as far as refusing to give anything to my mother. To this day, I don't own anything from my grandfather's. The only thing I have from him is an old vacation picture where he's barely visible. I started to realize she actually hates me when I was around 13 years old. My mother still had to listen to my grandmother's improper comments, but she acted as if it was nothing, for the sake of my sister and I. As for me, she always treated me like a worthless girl. One day when she came to visit us, she even stood before me, looked me in the eyes, and then pretended like she didn't even know my name. To make it clear, she has a very good memory, and even if she didn't, my mother talked with her every week, even though we live very far away from where she lives. She did remember my name. I tried to not think much of it, just so I wouldn't hurt my mother, but I couldn't take any more when she started assaulting my sister. Before my sister was born, my grandmother decided to make a bank account for my sister and I. She would fill it until we were 21 years old. My sister is 5 years older than me, and my grandmother started to harass her about what she would do with her money, although none of us knew what amount my sister would receive. We don't care about money. In fact, my sister and I didn't want it, but I still lost my temper when this happened. My parents, my sister, and I all had to go through a lot, so we're pretty close. Also, because of that, we're pretty protective of each other. And since I inherited my mother's personality, I felt the urge to protect my shy, quiet, and overly nice older sister. My mother and I ended up having a huge argument with my grandmother, and we didn't talk to her for a very long time. That was until my mother's uncle, with which she was close to, passed away. As I said before, we live far from the rest of the family, so my grandmother had to tell us about it. My sister and I decided to accompany my mother to the funeral to give her support. When we arrived, no one was at the graveyard, so we called my grandmother and asked where they were. That's when she gave us the true address to the graveyard. We ended up arriving when everybody was about to leave. My mother had to listen to improper comments and couldn't say goodbye to her uncle properly. After that, my grandmother told my mother to come and take back the last thing she still had from her. And since then, we stopped talking to each other. I learned she's saying to everyone that she is the victim and that my parents, my sister, and I are just ungrateful morons. My mother suffers a lot from this whole story. I still see her cry about it from time to time. She also apologizes countless times to my sister and I because she feels guilty of giving us a grandmother like that. And I must say that I suffer from this too. I try not to show it for my mother's sake, but I still think about it a lot, and I still don't understand what I did wrong. Sometimes I even catch myself thinking I would rather have her pass away and instead have my grandfather be alive. And when I think about this, I feel like a monster. So am I the jerk for wanting to cut off this side of my family out of my life? No, you are not the jerk. Your grandma is a psychopath. As someone who has a side of their family who fits this description almost perfectly, I know exactly what you're going through. And I understand the stress that comes along with having relatives that treat you like absolute garbage. A lot of the bad talking and the name calling and the crappy treatment, for the most part, I can understand as just being their personality traits and something that if you ever see them again, you'll probably have to put up with. It doesn't mean that it's okay, but at least you can know what you're going to get into if you ever decide to come in contact with them again. And for me personally, there's no way in the world I'm going to be treated like that. Not for a second, especially not my family. But the fact that your grandmother gave you the wrong address for this funeral for your uncle is absolutely unexcusable. I can let go the fact that they're terrible people and they pretend to not know your name. I can get over the fact that they treated your mom like garbage and then they feel the need to try and treat you like garbage as well. But on the one day when everyone is full of such sad emotions and everyone is feeling incredibly vulnerable, she decides to pull this garbage just so your mother can't say goodbye to your uncle basically is absolutely unacceptable. I can't imagine not being able to say goodbye to a family member of mine simply because somebody in my extended family decided to be incredibly toxic and just cruel. Like, there's no excuse for that. Like, that is such a low, disgusting, vile thing to do to somebody. So are you the jerk for cutting off contact with this family? No, I would have done that years ago. Sometimes the best antidote for toxic family members is to get away from them. Absolute distance and time will definitely
definitely heal all wounds. And I think the best thing you could do for you and your family, in my opinion, based on what you've described, is to move forward without any of those people in your life. As someone who has done something similar to that, I can tell you that you'll get a lot more peace in your life, and you'll overall probably be a lot happier. But that's just my opinion. What would you do if you were in this situation? Leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear it. My boyfriend made me take a polygraph test to see if I was sleeping around with someone else, and I failed the test miserably. I am a 24-year-old female, and I took a polygraph test back in March and April. My brother is a 30-year-old male, and he forced me to take one because he thought I was spending some quality time with someone at 6 in the morning while he left in the morning to go for a run. We live in a small town of about 20,000 people. I am personally not from that town. I come from a city about 2 hours away, and I have never been to the town we live in until I met him. In fact, I was never allowed to go out by myself. I never knew anyone there but my boyfriend and his family. I never spent quality time with anybody else, if you know what I mean, at any point during our relationship. So we drove 2 hours to the closest city, and I paid for everything as always. I paid for gas, food, and the $300 polygraph test. The results came back, and the polygrapher said I failed miserably. He told me I was trying to control my breathing, which I know I wasn't. I am always taking deep breaths here and there. I was nervous, even though I told my boyfriend I wasn't, because I didn't want a reason for him to be sketched out or for him to be mean to me because of me being nervous. And since I was nervous, I was taking deep breaths. But I wasn't trying to. It was just my nerves getting to me. The polygrapher said I scored a -13. I don't even know what that means. He said that I double failed. Apparently this means I failed miserably. Does anyone know anything about this or know anything about what this means and how that is even possible? I need some advice of what this means because I stormed out. I was so upset because I don't know how I could have failed miserably, especially because I have never spent any quality time with anyone while my boyfriend goes running. What do I do? You need to pack your things and get out of that house. No sane individual would have their significant other take a polygraph test just to see whether you are loyal or not. Like, that is crazy. Like, why would you even begin to agree to take one of these? If my girlfriend came up to me and said, "You've been cheating," and I looked at her and said, no, I'm not. And then she said, "We're taking a polygraph. We're going to prove it right now." I would look her square in the eyes and say, "We're breaking up." Not because I have anything to hide, but because it's the principle of the matter. What is this? Mission Impossible? I'm not out here trying to save the world or steal the Declaration of Independence, lady. I'm trying to make breakfast and you think I'm cheating. Screw that, bro. Get out while you can. That's like some American Psycho level crazy. So yeah, that's what I would do if I was in your situation. I would pack my things and leave. And I know, and I'm sorry that this doesn't answer any of your questions regarding the polygraph test, but why on earth would you agree to take one in the first place? There's also an extra layer of this that is also really funny if you think about it. What if the original poster is absolutely lying? What if they really are spending some quality time with some random nobody while her boyfriend is going off for a run at 6 in the morning, and she's desperately searching online trying to figure out why she couldn't beat the system? I really don't know which one's worse, agreeing to do the polygraph test in the first place or failing the polygraph test and trying to figure out ways to get past the system. Whichever reality is correct in this situation, I wish the original poster the best of luck in getting out of that house, because even the initial suggestion of, "Oh, you're gonna take a polygraph test," seems very weird and sketchy to me. And trust me when I say this, based off of no other information about this individual, you can do so much better. My dad is a complete control freak and is absolutely ruining the experience of me building my own home. For some backstory, I'm a 35-year-old male and I'm currently living with my dad at my sister's house. Their house is big and she and her family occupy the upper levels, while my dad and I live downstairs in the decently sized apartment basically. The reason being, I've bought a house myself last year and it needed some heavy renovations. My mother and grandmother passed away in the span of last year, both 6 months apart, and it had hit us quite a bit financially. So in order to afford both the mortgage and the renovations, it's been decided that I'll move in with my old man, and to also keep him company after my mother's death, and that he'll be helping me with the house. To describe my dad, he is, to be polite, a really bad control freak, and it's like I'm back to being 14 years old again. As far as I remember, his only ways of communicating with us are ordering us around and berating us, and in that order. We have nothing in common. I can't start a conversation with him without it turning about me being a naive idiot who knows nothing about life. He also complains about really petty things. Apparently to him, I hold my 4 work wrong. And I should also not, apparently, sleep past 9 o'clock because other adult people are already up and doing whatever other adult people do for their responsibilities. So after working all day, all I want is to be left alone and not be subjected to his life lessons, which rarely happens because I have basically zero privacy, and he just loves to tell me that I'm a failure of an adult. So today I left work a bit later because I hate leaving stuff unfinished, and the client wanted his stuff done as soon as possible. If half an hour extra would mean I wouldn't have to return later, it works for me, which earned me another lesson about how I should prioritize family matters first and ditch work 4 hours early if necessary. And yeah, with that same logic, I would go ahead and get fired, but for some reason he doesn't seem to understand the nuance. This is all because he asked me to drive by the house in order to check the work done, and I, for some reason, did not ask the workers to stay past 6 o'clock at night in order to discuss things with them. I just knew the evening would be terrible, and you know what? It was. See, while I've been admiring my new walls and the paint, I've noticed a note in my mailbox. Some dude wanted to know if I wanted to keep the old doors, and if not, he wondered if he could have them. Great, I thought. I wouldn't need to throw them away myself, and I told my dad about it, but that ended up being a massive mistake. When my dad asks for something, it's rather an order, if anything. He'll tell you to do something and it has to be done, and he said it has to be done right away. So here I am, still chewing on my dinner, calling the guy about the doors. Per usual protocol, he's hovering around telling me what to say and how to say it, while rolling his eyes when I tell him to please go away and to give me some distance. Because let's be frank, it's annoying and it's really frustrating, and he's been doing it for years. He can only hear my side of the conversation, and the door guy basically confirms by himself what my dad wants to know. But because I did not ask in the way that my dad would want me to, it made him increasingly annoyed. By the end of the call, he's been yelling at me and calling me names, which nobody should utter to anybody. And after that, I laid into him because I don't like being insulted, even less by my own family. He then went to his room and pouted for 5 minutes, then went back to me and threw his copy of the house keys in my face, telling me that I'm on my own and that he would not help me with the house anymore, which, by the way, is just an empty threat he likes to throw around when he can't get his way. I told him that the next time he calls me names and acts like a child, I will deck him so hard that he'll need a straw for his next dinner. As you can imagine, after that, we're not really talking to each other now. And honestly, the silence is golden. Sounds like you have a rough situation on your hands. I can completely understand where you're coming from, but I can also see where this dad is coming from. It seems like they're definitely grieving the loss of their wife. So I kind of cut him a little bit of slack, but I also know what it's like to have somebody hanging over your shoulder trying to tell you what you can and can't do with a certain thing. It is incredibly frustrating. I definitely would not have said, hey, I'm going to deck you if you do that again. I think that's a bad idea. But other than that, I think he handled it pretty well. And personally, I would take his empty threat seriously. If he doesn't want to help with the house anymore, you just make sure you never give those keys back and you call it good. He's no longer a part of the house. So best of luck with navigating this, and hopefully things get better between you and your dad. An entitled Karen demands that I give my Nintendo Switch to her demon child while we're on a flight, but after I kindly say no, she freaks out on me and makes a scene. This just happened the other day, and after sharing the story with my friends and family, a few of them suggested I share this online. The scene is a Southwest airline flight. I was sitting in a window seat next to two lovely ladies, and directly horizontal from us was an empty seat, a mom and her son. The flight was taking off. For those who don't know, you are required to stay in your seat and keep your seatbelts on for the beginning of the flight until the captain says otherwise. I was strapped in my seat and decided to take out my Nintendo Switch from my carry-on beneath my feet. "Excuse me, ma'am?" I didn't realize it at first that the mother in the seats horizontal from me was trying to get my attention. She unbuckled her belt and moved to the empty seat by the aisle closer to me. "Ma'am, with the video game?" I lifted my head, but the stranger next to me nudged me as well. They told me that the lady wants to get my attention. So I turned my head to see this woman leaning across the aisle with her hands on the armrest of the aisle seat in my row. "Sorry," she began. "I just wanted to know if there's any way that my son could use that game for a little while." I was a little confused that she would even ask this, but I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. My Nintendo Switch is actually really important to me. I don't feel comfortable giving it to anyone I don't know. I don't even let my sisters play with it." I was going to continue from here, but the woman cut me off. She says, "Oh, my son's not like most kids. He's not destructive. His cousin has one of those and he knows how to play it." She smiled and put her hand out expectingly. The two women seated next to me looked at me as if they were also in disbelief. I said again, "I'm sorry, I just don't don't feel comfortable. I brought it for me. Visibly upset, this woman in a huff says, "How old are you?" She said this condescendingly and retracted her hand, slapping it on her leg as if she's frustrated. I told her that I'm 25, even though that doesn't matter with the situation. At this point, I was growing exceptionally uncomfortable. She began sounding very agitated at this point as she said, "Well, my son is 8. This is an hour and 45-minute flight, and he just wants something to do. He can't see it for a few minutes." I tell her, "No, I am not comfortable with that. I'm sorry, but I'm expecting you to understand since this is my property." I put my head down and I unpaused my game as to ignore anything she had further to say. At this point, she was genuinely livid. "Are you serious?" She then addresses her kid and says, "Well, sorry, buddy. Not everyone knows how to share." The woman said this to her kid sitting next to her. Her child started whining and kicking the seat in front of him. "Thanks for this," she said to me. "A sweet kid just wants to share with you, and you're being ignorant about it." Before I even opened my mouth, one of the ladies in my row snapped back at her. They asked her, "How dare you bring that kind of energy on this plane?" This lady backed me up too, saying that I was very kind about saying that I don't want to give my electronics to a stranger and that it made me uncomfortable. But this entitled Karen was not having it. She actually said, she's an adult and can't share with a kid for a few minutes of a nearly 2-hour flight." The woman in my row responded and said, "You should have brought something for him to do then." And that actually shut her up for good. At the end of the flight, the woman collected her luggage from the overhead bins, looked at me and said, "I hope you're happy going against God's word, not sharing with a child." Some of the people around us giggled like small children. I'm sure that they overheard the drama at the beginning of the flight. I've come across some entitled Karens in my life, but this strange lady definitely took the cake. Why is it that stuff like this never happens when I'm around? It is like my dream to watch this all go down. This was hilarious. This entitled Karen actually wanted this original poster to give them their Nintendo Switch just so their stupid gremlin child could have something to do on the flight. Like, I'm sorry, that's not anybody's fault except for that terrible Karen parent. And the fact that they tried to guilt trip them no matter what is further evidence that this lady does this all the time. You can bet she pulls the Karen card and uses her kid as a weapon to try and get whatever she wants under every circumstance. It's so totally unfair and it's absolutely ridiculous. Thankfully, everybody else had some common sense and came to this lady's defense. And I've been on those kinds of flights where you have that entitled brat sitting nearby, and it's bad enough you gotta listen to them screaming and whining, but compound that by having some entitled Karen trying to boss you around and practically take your belongings. Like, I'm pretty sure that kid would have never given her back her Nintendo Switch and probably would have tried to lie and say, "No, it's mine." So good for them for putting their foot down and telling this lady no, because sometimes these entitled Karens need to be put in their place and absolutely shut down. I finally meet my long-distance boyfriend, and I can't help but feel a little disappointed. I have been in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend, John, that's not his real name, for about a year now. We live on opposite sides of the country, and I flew out to meet him in person a couple of weeks ago. Now, he is funny and kind, and we share a lot of the same opinions on things, and he's quite attractive. We don't have too much in common, except for both being on the artistic side, but that was never a big thing for me. As long as you put in effort and you communicate openly and get along well, I believe many relationships can work out. We have both sent pictures of ourselves and FaceTime before, so there was no chance of catfishing or anything like that. When I was going to meet him, I put on my nicest clothes I brought, a somewhat simple but nice top, some loose breathable slacks, a pair of plain flats, a sun hat, and I put on a little bit of eyeliner. It was a simple but elegant look, as my friend put it, who came with me on the trip. I was nervous but really excited to see him at the same time. I was keeping him updated on where I was so we could meet up, and he seemed like he was getting cold feet. He was telling me he didn't have enough gas to come meet me. For reference, it's about an hour drive for him. I offered to send him some money for the drive, which I did. He's actually asked me for gas money a couple of times and has yet to pay me back despite having a job. When he gets there, he has a t-shirt on and cargo shorts with boots that seem a bit too big for him. I don't think too much of it at the time, but in hindsight, I guess I felt overdressed. I don't know. We walk around for a bit and then we sit on a bench for a second because my legs were getting weak from how nervous I was. We hold hands for a little bit, and after a while he tries to kiss me on the lips. Now, I'll admit it, I haven't had my first kiss yet, and I stopped him because I'm pretty sure I'd faint if we kissed, and I didn't feel ready after meeting only a few minutes before. We sat holding hands for a little longer and got up and walked around. As we were walking around, I noticed his fingernails were much longer than mine and had dirt underneath them. I noted that he has a manual labor job, so that explains the dirt under the nails. After a while, he he had to leave, and we parted ways after a kiss on the cheek. Now I'm home and I'm not sure how I feel. This is the longest relationship I've ever had, and I guess I feel, well, a little disappointed. Like something very wonderful would happen, and instead I just felt okay. What should I do going forward after making this realization? I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I know if I bring it up to him, I'll word it horribly and do more damage than anything. I'm very new to relationships, so I'm not sure what I should do. I can totally understand where you're coming from. Meeting your online boyfriend or girlfriend for the first time would probably be a little bit shocking. I mean, you've never actually met this person, but still you have such an intense bond with them that you love them. So seeing them face to face for the first time is probably a little scary, if not a little bit underwhelming. I think the best thing about all of this, though, is that you have met him and now you know what to expect, especially if you decide to keep this relationship going. And here's the thing, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like there's no way that you can try and force this and make it happen, because that wouldn't be fair for yourself. And it especially wouldn't be fair for him either. Like if after this meetup you still feel like, hey, I don't really like him anymore, then it is what it is. Being around someone physically really does make a difference when it comes to whether you like them or not. You can idolize and make this ideal person out of who you see online, and you can spend hours with these people constantly. But in my opinion, until you meet them in person, you don't really know them that well. So hopefully this relationship still works out for you, and hopefully you meeting him in person didn't completely throw you off, because it sounds like you two have a good relationship together, and it would be a shame for that to just get thrown away, all because you finally met in person. I let a girl sit on my thigh, and now my girlfriend is incredibly angry at me, and I'm not sure what to do. I went to hang out with some friends at one of my friends' house, and my girlfriend came along with us. There were like 9 of us in total there, and we were just talking, eating, and drinking. After we played a drinking game, one of my friends was definitely under the influence and came over to where my girlfriend and I were sitting and cuddled and started talking to us. After talking for a bit, she wanted to sit and asked my girlfriend if she could sit on my leg. My legs were spread out in a V shape. My girlfriend said okay for some reason, and the girl sat on my left leg and had her arm around me to hold herself up. My girlfriend looked pretty upset by this girl, who was very drunk at the time. And it wasn't like I could just kick her off my leg and have her on the ground. We were talking for like 5 more minutes, but my girlfriend sounded very angry, and that's when she said that she's gonna go throw up from the alcohol and went off to the bathroom. I got up and seated the girl on the chair I was sitting on and went to go check on her. She wasn't throwing up, but told me that we were going home. So we walked back out to where everyone else was, and my girlfriend announced that we were leaving. When we got out, I ordered an Uber to drop us off at her apartment. When we were waiting for the Uber, she wasn't talking to me, and when I tried to talk to her, she would respond angrily and make a weird remark. When I asked her what she was upset about, she said it was obvious. I asked if it was the girl sitting on my leg, and she said yes. I was so confused because she said the girl can't sit on my lap. I asked her why she said the girl could sit on my lap, and then she said it's not like she could have said no. Personally, this doesn't make sense to me as to why she couldn't say no to this girl sitting on my lap. Like, how am I supposed to know that this is not allowed? So I told her that she's blaming me for no reason. When we were in the Uber, she yelled at me in front of the driver and started crying. When we got to her apartment and walked in, she told me to sleep on the floor with no blanket and no pillows. I said I'd rather go home and sleep on my own bed. Then I walked out of her apartment and went to my own. It's the next morning now, and she hasn't responded to any of my text messages. I don't want another miscommunication error, so I want to talk to her face to face, but she's not responding. I'm not sure what to do. Was I in the wrong for letting this girl sit on my lap, even though my girlfriend said it was okay? Who's at fault here? What should I do? I think you're both at fault. Both of you are complete idiots. Your girlfriend should have never said yes to this drunk lady sitting on your lap, and you should have never let that drunk lady sit on your lap ever, under any circumstance. Your girlfriend is literally sitting there right next to you. Why on earth would you let that happen? If anything, your girlfriend should have sat on your lap and the drunk girl sat on the other chair. That would have been best case scenario. But in that same vein of thought, the girlfriend then acting like this is your fault and solely your fault is completely ridiculous. In my honest opinion, both of you are the problem here. Both of you made an equally stupid decision, and both of you are to blame for this situation going where it is. If a drunk girl came up to me, regardless of what my girlfriend said, I would absolutely 100% say, no, you're not sitting on my lap. I don't know who this chick is. I'm not interested in her. I'm interested in my girlfriend who's sitting right there. I'm not about to compromise that by letting some drunk chick sit next to me and cuddle up on me. No, thank you. And your girlfriend saying that she couldn't say no to this lady is the biggest cop-out ever. If she actually had your best interest in mind, with any intention of trying to protect her boyfriend boyfriend, she would have said no on the spot. But she said yes, put her foot in her mouth, and then tried to blame you, which is just not okay. But overall, both of you are equally stupid, and you both need to figure out your stuff and grow up. Because allowing some girl to sit on your lap, whether your girlfriend stupidly said yes or not, is not okay. My husband wants me to keep my job for the benefits, and I want to pursue my passion at my dream job that just opened up. And I'm honestly not sure what to do. My husband and I have been married for a year, and we were dating for 3 years prior to getting married when we met in college. During college, I was working multiple jobs to keep me afloat. My family is not in the picture. While in college, I landed one internship with an organization that I loved. I now work for that organization full time, and I am not enjoying the work culture at all. The political games, the backstabbing coworkers, and the overly into themselves poor management across the organization makes me literally sick. The job itself has great time off and decent health benefits, as well as a flexible schedule. I love 50% of what I do, but I feel as though I only get paid the bare minimum, which might be standard for a nonprofit. While in college, I also volunteered to work with students because I had no happiness in my life. The kids brought me joy, and I thought graduating and landing a full-time job would make the world brighter, but I'm miserable sitting behind a desk all day. A part-time teaching position came up recently, a job I think would check many boxes for me. My partner, however, does not want me to take it because my current full-time job offers great benefits that I would lose. Mind you, we both met in college, and I feel too young to be settling down at a bleak office job. My husband insists that I'm making my way towards becoming a leader and making change at the organization that I currently work for. Should I follow my dream and leave the plush full-time job, or make responsible decisions based on my partner's thoughts? What should I do? This is a really tricky one because I can see both sides of this. On one hand, you really hate your full-time job, but there is some good benefits that come along with it. On the other hand, you have this dream job coming up, but it might not have the same benefits that your current job currently offers you. It's a really tricky place to be. The first thing I would personally look at would be if we can actually afford me switching jobs at the moment. It's great that your dream job opened up, like I'm really happy for you. But if your family finances cannot support you switching to a part-time position when you've currently been enjoying a full-time position that pays you quite well from what it sounds like, it might not be the wisest decision off the bat to go, okay, let's quit my full-time job to get my dream job that pays significantly less. That could really make a dent in just about everything in your life. And I don't think you should completely ignore your partner's advice on this one. I think they want the best thing for you, but at the same time, they also want to make sure that you're both financially stable. That is really important to consider. And if you're just switching jobs simply because you found your dream job, then personally, you need to make sure you can afford that switch. And guess what? If you can afford that switch and this dream job will somehow make ends meet and it won't be a financial burden, then absolutely make the switch. Who cares what anybody thinks? Maybe if you lay everything out and show your significant other that yes, this can work for us, they might be more willing to let you take that step, and they probably would be more supportive in the long run. So whatever you decide to do, I hope it works out for you. And I hope that whatever you decide to do, your significant other is there to support you. My partner is ending our relationship while I'm 34 weeks pregnant. I'm a 32-year-old female and my partner is 48 years old. He just told me today that he can't do it anymore. He says that he can't be in our relationship because he doesn't feel respected. The truth is, I just feel tolerated. We have the same thoughts about each other. If I think he's self-centered, he thinks the same about me. I haven't been able to work during the pregnancy, and while I'm receiving FMLA and unemployment, he goes out to work every day. I contribute to the household expenses and he contributes about 20% to the household duties. I pay the car note of the car he drives to make money. He got into a car accident that caused little damage, but I'm the one who is working with the companies for the repairs. We've had a broken toilet seat for months and he's done nothing to fix it. He washes the clothes once a month, we don't have a washer and dryer in our place, and I can't carry the bags. The clothes need to be washed so bad, 3 huge bags, and still it's not getting done. I don't even have a dry towel. I literally sit in the house naked most days. I don't buy any summer clothing for my growing body because we have to save money, which I totally understand. But now I can't fit my pre-pregnancy summer clothes anymore. I clean the bathroom, I wash the dishes all the time. I do 75% of the cooking, and I get government assistance with the food, but I also buy out of pocket. He buys out of pocket too. I also buy restaurant food because I don't want to cook all the time, and it's blazing in our place, and I don't want to stand on my feet and cook in the kitchen at this stage of my pregnancy. He conveniently doesn't eat restaurant food, except he does, especially when I'm buying it. I try to tidy up the rest of our place as much as I can, but with no dressers or drawers or any place to put anything, it's always looking messy which stresses me out. I don't make the bed every day, which for most of this pregnancy is an air mattress. I finally broke and bought a mattress after thinking he would get one. I've said it to him for months, we need one because it's uncomfortable and hard for me to get in and out of the air mattress. This month I had to help with rent. That's his responsibility and I didn't get the money for that back. But when he paid my phone bill because I didn't have it because I helped with the rent, he expected that back, which I did. He says he can't do it anymore because he's out working and he's hungry, and I should have his meals ready for him. When I wake up after I do my morning routine, I should call him and tell him to come to breakfast. When he comes in from work at night, he shouldn't have to wait for his dinner. I've asked him to let me know when he's on his way so I can fix those things, but his response is to cook it anyway and to tell him to come and get it. He's also upset because I stream a lot of the day, sometimes just to have noise in the house. I don't talk to anyone, we don't go anywhere, I don't have any books to read, most of our things are in storage. I did crochet a top last week though, but that's about it. Recently he's been building his social media presence and needed a website to create products. I designed the website, the logo, the products, and everything while he makes videos and posts them on TikTok. He didn't like the website and I redid it. Nothing to be done with that yet, to be honest, but I'm sure something will come about it. When he had his other business ventures, I was there with him to do whatever I could. He wanted to start a restaurant, I was there creating the menu and coming up with a system to streamline everything. He stopped doing that because he got stressed out dealing with people. I just don't know how I feel right now. I think I'm just indifferent and I just don't care anymore. I'm also upset because I have this baby to take care of and I need a work from home job in order to provide. The plan has always been that I'll be a stay-at-home mom as we don't want the baby to be in daycare. I'm going to talk to my employer next week to see about going to work until my due date to at least be bringing in some income or suffer through doing Uber. I feel like I can't talk to my family about this because they don't like him at all, and we've had problems all throughout our relationship, and I'm sure they don't want to hear about this stuff anymore. I can't stay with my family because they all smoke and won't stop just because I'm pregnant. They are advocates for smoking through the pregnancy, and I am not. My one sister lives in a one-bedroom apartment, and I can't bring my bed there. He says that he's finally getting his old car fixed that's been down for more than a year, so I can do whatever I want. I worked in customer service and sales before this, and would really want a work-from-home job doing anything I'm capable of in order to provide. I'm upset, and I really don't know what to do. I think the person you're with is a complete scumbag. This guy is an absolute piece of garbage. You're about to have a baby and he wants to break up? He wants to end this relationship because he doesn't feel respected? I mean, how selfish can you get? From what's being described, this woman has done everything for this man, and he has the audacity to turn this around and make it about himself. What a piece of garbage. But honestly, this lady will be so much better without him, and it doesn't help that you have family that are not understanding and they've already written off this relationship as something that's never going to work out. So I honestly wish you the best and I hope things work out for the better. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.